right. Welcome back to What She Said. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. So there's a great show planned for today. Shedeur Sanders is taking Cleveland by storm. Earlier today, if you follow me on YouTube or Instagram, you saw a post where Shedeur was getting a lot of love. He actually visited a high school today. You know, when he's in town, he always likes to visit high schools. Kids love them. And there's some good news. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. All right. Your guy, Shedeur Sanders, yesterday was top 3 in jersey sales. Well, guess what? Shedeur Sanders is now in the NFL number 1 in jersey sales. All rookies, he leads the pack. Further confirmation that this young man should have been in the top 1, 2, or 3. Further confirmation that the NFL is not based on talent. And this leads into conversations. I'm sitting down because we're going to be on for a while tonight. It leads into conversations about whether or not he should sue. Should he continue to play football, etc. So I did a poll on YouTube, and I did ask, and by consensus, my question was, should Shedeur Sanders still want to play in the NFL? And overwhelmingly, it was like, of course, yes, he should. And then today, Dr. Umar, I don't really follow him. I know who he is. Somebody suggested that I watch the video, and I did. He gave his opinion on how he felt regarding Shedeur being snubbed. That's the term. But let's be clear, Shedeur wasn't just snubbed. He was humiliated and ostracized and discriminated against. And yes, it was collusion. I think the growing consensus is collusion. Now, when you ask anybody at, say, like a big box channel, they're going to try to explain it away, but they're starting to lose the argument. Because here's what's happening. The NFL is changing the story. First, it was the coaches. The worst interview ever. He wasn't prepared, and he had an entourage, and he's entitled. Those were the talking points, and it didn't fly. It worked in the draft. It worked in the draft, and I did go back and find the screenshot that I had where Mike Tomlin said there were phone calls. So it wasn't just assistant coaches, and the NFL didn't listen to the assistant coaches. It was assistant coaches running around. That's what Nick Saban alluded to when he said people running around with narratives. This is defamation. Let's be clear. So there's an anonymous assistant on the record. We looked at their statement yesterday. There was Brian Daboll, who had the entourage statements and the worst interview, and he wasn't prepared, and he was entitled, and he didn't care if we liked him or not. Okay? Those were their gripes. And it seems like they are the people, Brian Daboll and this anonymous assistant. And remember that anonymous quarterback coach, which turned out to also be from the Giants. So far, 2 out of 3 statements came from the Giants organization. Brian Daboll and the QB coach. We don't know who the assistant is, but it wouldn't surprise me if they also came out of the Giants camp, which is a travesty because the Giants were never going to choose Shedeur Sanders. They did it to scapegoat him and justify choosing Jackson Dart. And I feel like I don't know why they even had to do that. Probably because, it shouldn't just be based off preference. It's a talent, meritocracy. And Shedeur and Jalen Milroe both should have been the picks that was selected, that Jackson Dart was selected, the Giants and the Saints, Tyler Shaw. No mistake about it. Absolutely not. But it just seems that the Giants did what they needed to do to tap into that good old Miss network. It's not lost on me that Jackson Dart went to the Giants. Eli Manning played for the Giants, went to Ole Miss. Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss. Jackson Dart's welcome to the Giants call came from who? Eli Manning, the person who also, Sports Illustrated, shout out to them, did a direct comparison to the Mannings' attempts to get Eli to a better organization than he was drafted to, because he was the first pick overall. And it did not negate his stock. And his father picked up the phone and made a call. And the Chargers actually chose him, but he refused to go. Shedeur said he wanted to go to an organization where they changed the culture and they want to win. Coach Prime's statement was, Cleveland is in disarray, and it would basically hurt a young QB's chances. So everybody realizes, oh, that's where they sent him. But people also went back and looked and saw that Shedeur was not a part of their draft strategy. They were forced to take him to their own surprise. So when Boomer Esiason came out and told us, yeah, owner said take him off the board, he admitted collusion. He admitted that they colluded. It wasn't the interviews. It was the running around and calling him entitled, because that's the exact same word that Boomer Esiason used, entitled. So entitled came off the lips of the Giants organization against Shedeur Sanders. Coach Diboll should be fired. The QB coach should be fired. The anonymous assistant, no matter who he works for, with his defamatory statements that we reviewed yesterday, should be fired. The damages that they cost this young man are exponential. They cost him approximately a $20 or $30 million signing bonus plus a $40 million contract. That's $70 million in damages. You can't say Shedeur lost it because he didn't fumble it. He did exactly what was done before him. His own father got to choose where he went. And if you look at Shedeur's draft day pattern, he had on a modern version of what his father wore back in 1989 when he got drafted. He was essentially just being the person he admired, that he knew the NFL loved. At the worst, he probably thought they would think what he was doing was maybe funny because they know exactly who his father is, because he used that statement. Shedeur was not cocky. He just didn't fit that stereotype. And to hear somebody say, and that somebody is Boomer Esiason, that he thought highly of himself. What the hell is wrong with thinking highly of yourself? That's what you're supposed to do. The opposite of high is low. So you want him to be lowly and think lowly of himself. So you want him to lack self-confidence. He thought highly of himself. He's a quarterback. And I guarantee you, if he didn't think highly of himself, they would say he's too insecure and lacks confidence. So they've been moving the goalposts all over the place. Diboll is backing away from answering questions, but shout out to Sports Illustrated for keep pushing it. Stephen A. actually said, I do believe they were intentionally trying to hurt him. Absolutely, with the prank. So we're going to dissect and examine the prank today. I have the video. I noticed some things. So while Shedeur is racking up money for the NFL, they are consistently trying to send the message that they don't value his elite talents. Now, Canada has entered the conversation quietly. The CFL has Shedeur Sanders on their negotiating list. I don't know why. I don't know why. I know one thing, Coach Prime loves his kids. But if Shedeur wants to play in the NFL, he's not going to do what Dr. Umar suggested. They're not going to sue. But Ben Crump keeps following and reposting about the situation. So something is going on. Maybe they're setting up if they don't give Shedeur a fair chance. The question I asked yesterday. And I said, no, I do not believe they're going to give Shedeur a fair chance. Their very condescending welcome to Cleveland call told you that. I went and listened to Dylan Gabriel's call. Total opposite. Total opposite. So no, he's not safe in Cleveland. Not with a call in the direct opposite direction. It was condescending, like we don't want you. And that's really how they feel about him. Cleveland is keeping up the same BS that the NFL did on draft night. We don't want you. He was going to go undrafted, but God kicked in that door and opened it. And now he's in Cleveland, and their welcome call was condescending. If you listen to Dylan Gabriel's, and we're going to listen to it probably tomorrow because we get ready to get into this prank, this so-called prank. It's the direct opposite. Tone is different. They talk longer, laughing, hee-hee and ha-ha. And they spoke to the mom. Coach Prime had to ask to speak to whoever was on the phone. They saw the mom and spoke to her. We can't wait for you to be here, buddy. We know, you're probably tired because we just flew you back out. Dylan Gabriel was always their choice in Cleveland. He was always their choice. The depth chart is out for Cleveland. Shedeur is not even on it. Not even in the fourth quarterback spot. It's Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel. Shedeur is the fifth option, which is why they're treating him like they had to take him because they did. We're not making any promises. They said nothing like that to Dylan. Nothing at all. And the crazy part is they're treating him like he is entitled, but he's not. That's just the story that they're using to justify their BS. So here's my thing. If you felt like he was entitled all along, why the negative stories from the Giants organizations who never were going to draft him? Why did the Giants have a last-minute meeting with him again? Again, not the first, an additional meeting. Because you're trying to cover CYA. You're trying to cover your tracks and justify making the pick that you did from Ole Miss, which is just an extension of the Manning's family. If that's what you wanted to do, you never had to be evil and defame Shedeur. But no, y'all wanted to hurt him because, see, y'all think a lot of him. And that's not what you typically do. What you typically do is run around and believe that Black NFL players have lower cognitive functioning. But you see somebody who thinks highly of themselves, and that makes you uncomfortable because why? You feel like you can't control him because you feel like he won't shift his eyes away from you when he walks past you in the hall, because you know he will look you in your eye, because you know he will expose you because you're incompetent. You have a pattern in history of incompetence, and this young man is a winner. And if he goes to your organization and suddenly, for the first time in his life, doesn't win, people are going to question you. And you don't want that. You want to be comfortable and lazy and a loser. You're threatened by him. That's why the Giants would have never drafted Shedeur Sanders. They want somebody that's going to say, yes, master, and shut up and collect a check. They want people that don't care if they lose the Super Bowl. But if those players really felt like that, they would call them lazy. They want what they want when they want it. They want you to shift in whatever direction and mood they're feeling today, and you don't have an opinion about it. The Giants organization should be minus a head coach just based on incompetence for Saquon Barkley alone, for keeping Daniel Jones too long. But see, that's what they do. Daniel Jones wasn't good, so they just comforted him and protected him and swaddled him like he was a newborn baby and kept giving him money and money while everybody else on the team was frustrated that they were losing. Because the quarterback is the most important position on the team. Cam Ward is on the depth chart in Tennessee as number 1. But the fans giving him hell over country music because of his choice of whoever he liked. Morgan Wallen, don't know who it is. But they saying, I regret this pick. People tried to warn Cam and say, don't think you safe. I know I said it. You better talk to Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson and Shedeur Sanders. Don't think you better than Shedeur. Because if they could do what they did to Shedeur, they would do it to anybody. And somebody Black who's a top 3 QB next is up next year. Because why? Everybody is running around trying to cover for the NFL and blame Shedeur and all Coach Prime for doing exactly what Eli Manning and Archie Manning did. by saying the Mannings have privileges, but the legendary Sanders do not because they're Black. They would rather blame Shedeur and Coach Prime than hold the NFL accountable. And that's all of this running to cover and change the story and your language. That's all it's about. Nobody wants to hold the NFL accountable, but the NFL has proven that it is racist. It's documented. They were slapped on the hand with a civil rights lawsuit in 2021, and in 2024, it's still a fight to get everybody paid. Even though they overpaid, they still have some issues. For the practice of saying that Black NFL players did not deserve compensation for concussions because their brains were already at a lower cognitive ability, therefore making whites superior. That is straight out of slavery and Jim Crow, and it's documented as such. It was never really talked about. Neither was the collusion case, where the NFL was found guilty right before the Super Bowl. In one article, it says there was very little reported on the topic. Again, the 3 quarterbacks integral to the collusion case about veterans quarterbacks, where all 32 teams colluded against veteran quarterbacks. Guess who the 3 quarterbacks are? You heard me say it. Russell Wilson, they just forced out of Pittsburgh after they humiliated in Denver. Lamar Jackson, that they have snubbed and colluded against 1, 2, 3 times. His NFL draft, his free agency, and his 3rd MVP. Deshaun Watson got the same treatment. They called it the dual threat curse because after Michael Vick, they saw the numbers of Black quarterbacks increasing. Maybe that's why Michael Vick ended up incarcerated. I'm not saying they made him do what he did, but the NFL protects a lot of people. And especially if you white, like Justin Tucker, his case is still dragging on. And he's accused of worse, in my opinion, after reading it, for what Deshaun Watson did. And he hasn't settled at all. They said these kind of cases takes time. They are blatantly and overtly racist and prejudicial. They will protect these white players and even random white people that don't have jobs if their feelings are hurt about Black players making millions. As long as white people are making millions, it's okay for Black people to make millions. But in 1934, when a lot of white people didn't have jobs, just like a lot of Black people didn't have jobs, they banned Black players from the NFL because they banded together in a gentleman's agreement. All 32 or 31 or 28, whatever it was back then. All owners agreed to ban Black players from the league because random white people, not Black people, random non-NFL citizens. If you was just at the bus stop and you was white, they felt sorry for you, so I'm going to ban the Black players from being in the league. I'm not going to let them make no money if you're not making no money. Even with this so-called prank, they have rushed in to protect the defensive coordinator and his child, which is his overgrown adult son. So let's get into this fine, and we're going to talk about why it's not enough. So while it's good, Shedeur is racking up in jersey sales and it shows where he needs to be, the money still goes to the NFL. But I'm not mad. I know what y'all trying to do. All right. So Shedeur Sanders, most of the earth knows that Shedeur Sanders was humiliated by what people are calling a prank call. But see, this prank call was different than the others. Some people thought it was a humiliation ritual to welcome him to the NFL. But see, here's the thing. Normally when people go through a humiliation ritual, they get what they went there for. He did not. Shedeur's contract should have been about approximately $46 million. His signing bonus, approximately $30 million. Not only did they humiliate him, they ran his pockets. And they put him in a position where he would probably have to work and toil for, I don't know, a decade or so. and he would never catch up to his peers. Never. Not in the NFL. So it's almost futile for him to be in it. They weren't going to draft him at first, but the prank and the president of the United States exposed that they were choosing mediocrity over talent. They were willing to not make billions just to humiliate Shedeur Sanders and send him the message, we don't respect your talent. They already didn't respect his talent. They just wanted to profit off of it. See, it's a difference when somebody hired you to do work and they disrespect you. So now Shedeur Sanders is in a position where he's all the way at the bottom. And they said it's because he thought too highly of himself. If you listen to everything Shedeur said at the combine, which is where they claim that this was taking place, yet they still reeled him in like they were going to draft him. That's what they're guilty of. And he said, you know, it don't really matter where I get drafted. He said Tom Brady got drafted late. You know, so he didn't, if somebody says it doesn't matter what number they get drafted, to be honest with you, they're not thinking that they're better than anybody else, and they're not asking for special privileges. So they're lying on him. That's called slander and defamation. And more, as the big box channels move on to hurry past it because they refuse to hold the NFL accountable, social media and what I call digital publications, print media, is still talking about it. Shedeur does not deserve to be in the situation he's in. There is nothing that he did. They lied on him. They lied on him. They wanted to humiliate him. They wanted to buck break him. The NFL's practice of race norming, saying that, oh, our black NFL players have lower cognitive ability. That's straight out of slavery. And they were doing that as late as 21. And they still fighting about it in 2024. They refuse to let go of their racist ways. They like it. It feels good. But that means when it comes to the black players, most of them are seen as bodies. But if you're the quarterback, that's the position that they're holding in high regard. And that's why Shedeur got snubbed. Giants were never going to draft Shedeur. Shedeur would be, after Cam Ward, the 17th starting quarterback. Pittsburgh even tried to say there was no point in drafting him because he would have been the 4th quarterback on the roster and QB2 behind Aaron Rodgers. Shedeur Sanders is too good to be QB2. Everybody knows Shedeur was the most NFL-ready QB coming into the draft. Cam Ward is only the first pick in the draft, so they could have kept Shedeur out that spot. When Tennessee wanted to trade that pick, one of the reasons I think they decided to keep it, well, I couldn't snub all 3 black quarterbacks that were at the top, so I got to pick somebody, but it ain't going to be Shedeur. So it's Cam. So let's see how his season goes. There's nothing that Cam did. He didn't win the Jim Thorpe Award. He didn't win the Natty. He won a bowl game. Shedeur is consistent year over year, even with a compromised O-line. I said it. A compromised O-line. And everybody had him first round, period. The only time you heard second round was the morning of the draft. Oh, I'm sorry. The second round was when he wasn't in Green Bay. So here's what I pick up from that. I guess he thought too highly of himself because he didn't come to Green Bay. Now, the NFL Network was trashing him. That's who actually had him fall into 21. The NFL Network. So they wanted him to come, regardless of how demeaning they were to him. They wanted him to show up in Green Bay like he didn't have feelings and want to protect his feelings. They don't care about that. They really don't. There was one reporter named Bucky Brooks at the Shrine Bowl who told Shedeur Sanders, you know, we have to do that for ratings. And he was like, yeah, I know. My dad say that's what comes with it. No, that's what comes with it if you're a black quarterback. A condescending call didn't come with it for Dylan Gabriel, who Cleveland was going to always select. Pittsburgh said they were never intending to take Shedeur. So that means Mike Tomlin was just going through the motions with the interview. So if Cleveland was never going to take him, if Pittsburgh was never going to draft him, if the Giants were never going to draft him, if Tennessee were never going to draft him, and if the Saints were never going to draft him, then who was? And since draft strategy was a lock by Monday, it needs to be investigated. Because if you weren't going to draft him on Monday, the week of the draft, then why didn't you just disinvite him from the draft? Because you wanted to exploit him from views, and you already had concocted a plan to embarrass him, because I picked up on it 2 weeks ago. Check out Listen Up Audio Podcast. It's a playlist. Episode number 6. Is there a brewing plot to embarrass Shedeur Sanders at the draft? Go listen to it. I picked up on it 2 weeks ago. So there's evidence of it if I picked up on it from my house. And that's why I memorialized it in a podcast episode. The apology by Ulbricht and the fine by Atlanta is not enough. And here's why. There's a connection here. Ulbricht is not just a coach, okay? He's an executive. And executives are entrusted with information, inside information, that, say, regular staff is not. And he had inside information on a Atlanta Falcons issued device. It's not lost on me that Coach Prime, who they also were trying to go at and embarrass or demean, played for the Falcons. And when his contract was up, he made them a gaggle of money. They didn't even renew his contract. They essentially did him like they did his son at the draft. Now, we've seen Jerry Jones in his face. You saw Coach Prime at the Super Bowl. If you don't know, everybody loves Deion Sanders. It's not just the fans. But when Coach Prime had concerns about an organization just like Archie Manning did, they accommodated Archie Manning for his son, Eli, who refused to go to the team that drafted him. But even when Shedeur said at the combine, it doesn't matter where I go. He said, I'm realistic about how they feel about me and my family. Because some, not all, like Coach Prime. Many do. Or so we thought. Maybe they do if they're staff. But the owners clearly have an issue. And Jerry Jones was called out. And so was Tom Brady, who was Shedeur's mentor. Tom Brady is a part of the ownership group for the Raiders. So Ulbricht, who's a defensive coordinator, but yes, he is an executive and probably makes $500,000, $1 million, or probably $3 million, had an iPad from the Atlanta Falcons with Shedeur Sanders information. We're getting ready to take a look at a video where his son is seen sitting on the sofa. And it's not lost on me that the young man with the sweatshirt on says Ole Miss. You heard me say it. Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss. Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. All of the coaches on the record that defamed Shedeur Sanders played for the worked for the Giants, where Eli Manning, who went to Ole Miss, played. Jackson Dart's welcome call. Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss and was welcomed by Ole Miss alum and New York Giants alum. So it's starting to look like there was a plot to embarrass Shedeur during the draft, where he was already being embarrassed right when the Saints were getting ready to select. And then when Pittsburgh, who had no intention on selecting Shedeur Sanders, passed, 2 picks later, Jackson Dart got picked by the Giants. There's something there. Shedeur Sanders didn't get a welcome call from an alum of the Cleveland Browns. I think Cam Ward got a jersey from Warren Moon. Travis probably got showed love by somebody, but not Shedeur. It's as if he's a bad person. And the caller said, the anonymous coach said, it's not that he's a bad kid. He's just not that good. Number one in jersey sales. Top 3 yesterday. I knew he would hit number 1. Even though fans are disgusted with the NFL and the way that they set out to humiliate Shedeur and they defamed him, and most people realize they made up a story. That made up story is supposedly why Pittsburgh said they didn't pick him. But now there's stories that the owners said don't pick him. I don't want this entitled. The owners, where did the owners get the opinion that Shedeur Sanders was entitled? From Brian Daboll from New York, the anonymous coach who refuses to go on the record because he don't want to be held accountable? The anonymous QB coach because he doesn't want to be held accountable? This wasn't about that. This was about slowing down the numbers of Black starting QBs. And right now it sits at 16. It was supposed to be 17, possibly 18. So let's listen to the video.
Hey, is this Shedeur? Hey, this is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints. How you doing? This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
It's ain't gonna be nothing to do.
Hey, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that.
Oh my God! He bought it! He bought it! Oh no.
Okay, so I'm going to play it again. I want you to just pay attention. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to make the screen larger so you can see something. And I'm going to point out some things. And I want you to point out what you see in the chat. That's what I want to happen, because I noticed a few things. Now, the fine for the data breach only involves Shedeur Sanders. So the people that are running around saying, oh, this one got pranked, Abdul Carter got pranked, not by these two. Because they only paid a mere fine of $100,000, which is a slap on the wrist for the executive who had inside information, and for $250,000 for the Falcons. The Falcons made $585 million in 2023. Albridge, I don't know his salary. I probably could Google it, but I know it's more than $100,000. And that's a slap on the wrist, and they can give it back to him in a Christmas bonus. I'm seeing more of the same. They're trying to protect the white people involved in the situation. They're trying to punish Shedeur for doing exactly what white people have done. They're trying to set a system of duality, a disparate system, a system of Jim Crow, and they're putting it in your face. Just as bold as the colored only and the whites only signs that starting to pop up in different cities. The political climate that we live in, the NFL is playing right into it. They don't care if we as Black fans don't show up to the games. Everybody that's not a quarterback is a body that they need to be successful. So I'm going to play this again, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to make it larger and remove myself so you can see.
Hey, is this Shedeur? Hey, this is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints. How you doing? This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
It's ain't gonna be nothing to do.
Hey, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that.
Oh my God!
Okay. Now, first thing off that I noticed, the Ole Miss sweatshirt. Now that the guy made the call is not the son. The son was the guy with the darker hair sitting on the sofa. Let's be clear. Albrecht's son, the 21-year-old who was doing like this, oh my God, he bought it, goes to Berry College. He does not go to Ole Miss. You think that's a coincidence? I do not. Secondly, the young man was reading from a script on the paper. He was reading from paper. They said he went into the iPad. His son went into the iPad and took only Shedeur's number. Now, they said Shedeur's number was on a distribution list and it was sent out to everybody in the Atlanta organization. And I think one of the announcers said that's over 100 and some odd people. So now get this right. If in one office there's over 100 people, let's just go 100 people, okay? Albrecht is an executive. Executives don't see what staff sees. So Albrecht was on a random general distribution list that could have said the cafeteria is closed today. That's the impression they want us to take. And his son saw a random general email that everybody in the company was on about the cafeteria being closed. And it had several players' information, not just Shedeur's, because Shedeur wouldn't be the only person. Shedeur wouldn't even be on an email about the cafeteria because he don't work there. But that's what they're saying. The only way you get on a distribution list with everybody on it is if it's, hey, the elevator's broken, the cafeteria is open. Albrecht is an executive. He would have private communication that he and only the other executives will be on. So somebody is lying, and they're trying to say that maybe they should have had an agent, and an agent could have did the communication for him, and Albrecht wouldn't have his phone number. I thought he was an executive. Albrecht shouldn't have Shedeur's number because Atlanta did not interview Shedeur. Albrecht shouldn't have Shedeur's number because he's a defensive coordinator and Shedeur is a quarterback. And there's no way you're going to convince me or a jury that Shedeur Sanders' only phone number is on a general distribution list to the entire organization about the cafeteria being closed. So this Ole Miss t-shirt and the lie and what's written on that paper needs to be looked into. What distribution list was he on? Why was he the only one on it? And why was everybody on it but him? Were y'all telling jokes about him and sending it throughout the organization and the son knew about it and wanted to get in on the fun? Because that's the only thing that explains why the entire organization would be on one distribution list and only Shedeur Sanders is on it. They're lying. So it's not enough. This needs to be investigated. It should not be swept under the rug with a mere apology. You upset that you got caught. The NFL is upset that the curtain was pulled back on the plot to humiliate Shedeur. It is not a coincidence. It was the Saints. You just heard me say it. If Pittsburgh said they were never going to take him, it comes out that Cleveland was never going to take him because now he's the fifth option. They were never going to take him. The Giants were never, ever going to take him. Tennessee was never going to take him. I don't care how many times they wanted to keep interviewing him. They were never going to draft Shedeur number one in this draft. So who the hell was going to take him? Oh, the Saints. So let's go down that avenue. So you mean to tell me the only one team that needs a quarterback was going to take Shedeur Sanders and it was going to be the Saints? And Mickey Loomis's overgrown child, nephew, or Albrecht's overgrown child sees a random email about the cafeteria closes and so happens to see only one NFL prospect contact information in that email about the cafeteria being closed. And he decided, hey, let's pull a prank on him. And it happens at the exact time before the draft for the damn Saints. And he chose to impersonate the Saints GM. I wonder what made him think he should impersonate the Saints GM, because he clearly reading it off that damn paper right there. Look at what he's doing. Think about it. When he starts the call, he already had Shedeur's number because the phone was ringing. So he keeps looking down at the paper to get Shedeur's name and say it correctly. Then he gets Mickey Loomis's name off the paper to be the correct GM. This was all a setup. That was a script, because when you're talking to somebody, you don't need to keep going back to the paper unless there's something you need to say and you're not 100% familiar with it because you don't know these damn people and somebody put you up to it, because after he did it, where the hell did he go? Notice everybody else was in the room and you could hear them, and he put his phone out and he went somewhere else, like to say, I did it. And the son is saying he fell for it. Why the hell wouldn't he fall for it? It's the NFL draft. So you mean to tell me that on a distribution list involving the whole entire organization, it's only one NFL draft prospect? And it had to be Shedeur at the very right time. The Saints were taking him. And so far, by process of elimination, the Saints are the only organization who was maybe possibly thinking about taking him. Well, let's look into it. Let's look into what's on that paper. Let's look into the distribution list he was on. Let's look into the emails from Albridge regarding Shedeur. Control F, find, type in Shedeur Sanders. And every mention of Shedeur should come up. And his name should have never been, Shedeur's name should have never been in his mouth, because Shedeur did not interview with Atlanta. Atlanta was not interested, and he's not a quarterback. He's not an offensive coordinator. He's not a quarterback coach. So this man should have never had Shedeur's information. And you're not going to convince me or a jury that the entire Atlanta Falcons organization was on an email and the only contact information for an NFL draft prospect was Shedeur Sanders. Bullshit. Look into it. There is a connection between that young man sitting there with that Ole Miss sweater and Jackson Dart getting drafted to the Giants, who were never going to take Shedeur Sanders. And Albridge, the only way they could get it done, they needed to get an executive's information, because Shedeur's information is not in anybody's hands. This was a setup. This was a setup to humiliate, and it got busted. And that's why Shedeur is in Cleveland. It might also explain why, for the second time, Pac-Man Jones is saying, along now with a host, that a guest that came on his show, Shapiro, is saying, sources say Shedeur is going to Jacksonville. Is that hard to believe? No. Because now that the depth chart is out that ESPN put out, Shedeur is not on it. Barry telling Shedeur nothing is promised. Come in, put your head down, treating him like he's not a superstar. Treating him like he asked them for something when he didn't. Which means that Barry and the Browns are just following the same collusion and entitlement bull crap against Shedeur. So Cleveland is a holding place for Shedeur until he goes to Jacksonville. Unless he leaves first. And they might expect him to. And there might be something in the works with the Canadian Football League, because Shedeur is on their negotiating list. But I'm going to tell you something. I would take to Canada. I would ask for equity, because guess what? He don't have to play for them either. He can stay right here in the NFL and keep climbing up with the fans. And when Cleveland try to do him dirty, the fans going in on the NFL. That is why his jersey is at number 1. That is just as much as God as it is that prank was exposed. It makes it harder for the people trying to take him down to be successful, because now the fans have spoken. The person you drafted 144 has the number 1 jersey because everybody likes Shedeur. Y'all are lying on Shedeur to justify your stupidity for taking mediocrity over talent because you're threatened, because he's good and you're not. And it's going to be obvious, because it will be the first time he would lose, because your organization has been a loser. And you know you can't fix it because you're lame. You're not good. That's why the Giants didn't want Shedeur, other than the fact that they've never had a black starting quarterback, maybe because they believe the race norming. And that's why the NFL had to practice until 2021 and fighting it in 2024 that black NFL players have lower cognitive thinking. So they think less of you. They think that your white counterparts are superior, regardless of the position that you play. And Shedeur would be QB1 in the position that they covet, that they think the most of. And they didn't want him number 1 or number 32. Because guess what? Shedeur was the tipping point to become the majority. Cam Ward was the halfway. This young man is reading from a script. He's wearing an Ole Miss sweater. I even shared with y'all that Emmanuel Acho was antagonizing and via DMs, direct messenger, that asking Bucky is Jackson Dart QB2, meaning the second QB off the board. Yes, he was. He went to the Giants that lied on Shedeur, and that's the Ole Miss connection, the Mannings. The Manning and Darts and this fella right here. Somebody better find out who he is. This needs to be investigated. There's a reason why Ben Crump keeps sharing Shedeur's situation. I told y'all this not going nowhere. Shedeur lost $70 million because of them colluding against him, like Boomer Esiason said they did. This was planned a week or two before the draft. When Emmanuel Acho started antagonizing Deion Sanders Jr., he already knew the second quarterback in the draft was Jackson Dart. It's not a coincidence that young man has on an Ole Miss sweatshirt. It's not a coincidence at all. So somebody better find out who he is. And Atlanta fans are upset with the Falcons and that young man. They are upset because Coach Prime means so much to this city. He put this city on the map where the NFL was concerned. When Archie Manning was there, it was the Saints. When Coach Prime was there, it was Deion Sanders. When he was in Atlanta, it was Deion Sanders. And they didn't even offer him free agency contract. That's how you think somebody that brought you all this money? And then Coach Prime leaves and goes, I think, to the 49ers and wins the Super Bowl? Clearly, it wasn't him, huh? You see, that's how they do. They use Coach Prime for what they could get out of him. And then they just dismissed him. Just like they did Shedeur. I don't value your talent no more. They telling Shedeur, we don't even value your talent at all. But the fans are speaking. And Pac-Man Jones seems to know something. I looked at Jacksonville. They had pretty decent attendance, 60, 65,000. Their stadium maxes out at 67. But see, people wanted Jacksonville to take Shedeur in the draft. You know why they didn't, right? Because they were told not to. This is collusion. This is the worst case collusion I've seen in the workplace. This is collusion. It is discrimination because he's Black. It is defamation because they lied. They made up a story. It's identity theft. They stole his data. And they just want to apologize and walk off. No, 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 no. Because you're going to do it to somebody else that's Black. Just like you did, you tried to humiliate Lamar. You tried to humiliate Lamar Jackson. You tried to humiliate C.J. Stroud. No, this got to stop right here. Dr. Umar want Coach Prime to sue, but I don't think that's going to happen because this is Shedeur's childhood dream. Shedeur would have to wake up one day in Cleveland and go, you know what? I'm better than this. I'm getting ready to make $5,000 and make people a gaggle of money, just like my daddy did, who don't appreciate either one of us because I'm Black. He's young. He just as young as those guys that committed the prank. And those are the ones that are entitled. And did you hear anybody call them entitled? Oh, this is the prank era. I'm like, yeah, that's why they did it. They thought they was going to slide in on the trend and get away with it because nobody would be the wiser, but they got exposed. Nobody else that was pranked was being humiliated. Nobody else that was being pranked was pranked with inside information from the team that their legendary NFL father played for. I like the orange and brown, but I don't like Cleveland for Shedeur. because you could tell that they're treating him like he's a consolation prize that they got to find something to do with because you're not getting ready to play. He's not even on the depth chart. So the ugliness continues. I don't like that. So like Dr. Umar said, I do believe that they were sued, but I know Shedeur gonna have to come to that. And Colin Kaepernick sued, and he still wanted to go back. And then I thought about it. This young man doesn't just want to play football. He want to be like his dad. And that's what they trying to shame him for. I want you to know. He thinks too highly of himself. So I guess Coach Prime thought highly of himself. So they had to be told by another white man, y'all are stupid. And then they drafted him after they got exposed. They don't care. The black athletes, the black GMs, honestly, are just puppets. Barry and Tomlin, the coach, they are puppets. And they don't even realize it, but they being moved out. Barry's contract is up in 2026. I don't know if it's January 1 or December 31st, but it's 2025. If they liked him, he would have an extension. I want to make sure you don't go nowhere. I read earlier stories about when he got there in 2024. He was a hero. Let's see if they treat him like one. And honestly, if he's just going to watch another younger black man suffer and be condescending on camera and mistreat him, they might as well just hire a white man to do it. Tomlin, too, if you're not going to do what likely God did when he opened that door for you, is protect people that look like you just like they do. See, it's okay for them to protect each other. It's okay for the NFL to protect white players and random white people. But no, we can't do it. We ain't even supposed to stick together. Colin Kaepernick wasn't supposed to care about black people that he could or could not be related to. They blackballed him too. He won his case. He only got $10 million. Some people say he got more, but what's reported? And then he wanted to go back. If Shedeur gonna want to go back, he might as well stay and not let them rob him of his dream and just wait on God like he did during the draft, which means it's gonna take you some time to get where you go. If you don't believe me, ask Geno Smith. He had to be bounced around to 3 teams before he got to Seattle, where he was good. And then they moved him because supposedly Seattle didn't want to pay him. They wanted to pay Sam Darnold. So Geno goes with his old coach to Vegas, and I knew once he got there, which is why I was upset about it, because I felt like Tom Brady was actually betraying Shedeur Sanders and their relationship, their friendship, their mentorship that I know that they had. They had it at Jackson State for sure, because Tom Brady was telling Shedeur he didn't need a Rolls Royce, that he rents his Rolls Royce, and that's what Shedeur should do. I can't say I ever saw him at Colorado, but he was somewhere. And even if you weren't his mentor, you could have picked up the phone and said, hey, I don't think they're going to draft you. They're telling people not to draft you. So he was loyal to the ownership group. So I'm thinking he might wake up one day in Cleveland and go, you know what? I'm going to the CFL. Now, y'all know I want Coach Prime to start his own league, and that can't happen right this minute. Is the CFL a good idea? If he get ownership, it is. If he gets $70 million, it is, because he need to get $70 million from somewhere. And to me, somebody need to press this issue that this was part of the plot to humiliate him. The connection with the Ole Miss. He's reading off of a script. Where Shedeur numbers came from. All of that needs to be looked into with a forensic audit and examination of the device. And I know they think, let me delete it. It ain't going to help you, buddy. You can't delete the cloud. So y'all let me know. I'm going to check the comments. Y'all let me know what you think. The fines were too low in comparison to the DC's income and Atlanta's earning. The fines were used to quiet the noise about the prank. Right. And you know what it also quieted too, D. Johnson? All those people running around trying to soften and lessen the issue. But, oh, it just wasn't Shedeur. Well, guess what? They only got fined for Shedeur. So it was only Shedeur, which confirms my point. Of all the NFL draft prospect he had, he chose Shedeur. And he wearing an Ole Miss sweater. And Emmanuel Acho antagonizing Deion Sanders Jr. about Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart goes to the Giants, the same organization that slandered and defamed Shedeur Sanders. The Ole Miss connection is alive in the Giants organization, and that's fine, but y'all didn't have to ever trash Shedeur Sanders. But I guess you needed to explain to your fans why you would pass up an elite talent who could help you win. Because you've never had a black starting quarterback and you don't want one. You say it's going to be Russ. Let's see how many games he played. You might be forced into it by now. And that's exactly what's going to happen to Shedeur in Cleveland. I don't think they're going to give him a fair chance. I don't think they ever intended to. Pac-Man Jones said the plan is for Shedeur to go to Jacksonville with Travis. And a year later, Coach Crimes joins. And Shapiro said, yeah, he heard the same. It's the second time I've heard it. So something's going on. Why everybody's buying these jerseys? Something's going on. I think he might be in Cleveland for a year, which would mean he could be Geno Smith, like I said. See, Geno Smith got bounced around. The Jets, the Giants, and then the Chargers. And then he had success. But see, he's older. And then he goes to the Raiders. He gets $75 million because they look at him as, oh, he older. They gave Jackson Dart, the team he just left, 100, and that team didn't want to pay him. But the team said we didn't want to have to lose him. They forced him out of Seattle to block that number one spot that it looked like Shedeur was going to get. And after that, I think with Tom Brady, he just realized I'm a minority owner. I can't do nothing. But he should have picked up the phone and called Shedeur. Jerry Jones should have picked up the phone or sent a text message from somebody. Should have said, hey, I think, this not going to be good. Give them a heads up. But they don't respect them. They treated them like they didn't know them. Because they chose their agenda to preserve and try to maintain the majority of the black starting quarterbacks. I checked. Now, black quarterbacks are only 25% of the league's quarterbacks, but they the majority of QB1s. You see that right there? You think that don't piss them off? You see how they out here trying to protect everything that's white? The little kid that's not a kid. Matter of fact, they got me using the language. The overgrown child, his daddy, the organization. Hell, nobody talking about the kid that made the call. The student that made the call. Oh, he a college student. He went to Ole Miss. No. Auburn's son goes to Berry College. That Ole Miss connection is there. This was intentional. It started to make me feel like the Mannings don't like the Sanders. That's what I'm starting to get. They didn't say anything when Shedeur was being humiliated or doing what they did. They sat quiet. Maybe because they feel like you should have never tried to be us. That might be how they feel. That's definitely how the league feels. Oh, he thought too much of himself. What did Eli think of himself? What did Arch Manning think of his son? Y'all haven't still explained to anybody why Eli Manning and Arch Manning can do it, but Coach Prime and Shedeur can't. I'm waiting on that. That's why there needs to be a congressional hearing with Jasmine Crockett asking the questions. That's why there needs to be a lawsuit. I don't want Shedeur to end his NFL career, but you have to at some point realize they're not going to never treat you right. They were supposed to be paying $1 billion settlement, and in 2024, there's still something out there about that. At one point, they were supposed to move away from race norm, and then they ended up still doing it again. They do not want to let go of their racist ways. They like the fantasy of owning the plantation, and that's how they start a draft as it pertains to black players, which is why they keep overpaying the white mediocre players. Some of the white players are good. But out of the top 10, I think only 3 or 4 were white. Mason Graham, 5. Jackson Dart. No, Jackson Dart was later on. Top 5, maybe Tyler Warren. You got to look and see when it comes to who it is. But that's just what they do. They do it in free agency. And now, Like Pac-Man Jones said, Jacksonville trying to unload on anybody. Now, you don't think they could have made that trade before the draft and Shedeur go over there with Travis and they fill out that stadium and sell out for the next 4 or 5 years? Yes, but they were willing not to do it to make Shedeur doesn't get at QB1. Because they know they overpaid Trevor to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Shedeur would never get the opportunity to be overpaid. They owe that young man $70 million. And I hope somebody from the heavens, God, rain down on them so bad that they run over and send a private jet with nothing but the money or a wire transfer or something. But that's what it's going to take for them to do what's right. They're going to have to be leaned on. That's the only thing that stopped them from that ridiculous practice of saying that Black NFL players had lower cognitive functioning, a civil rights lawsuit. So unfortunately, that might be the only way for him to get his money. Now, when he sits down and he realizes they're not going to let me play, they're not going to let me start, they're going to only give me a few reps. Yes, the fans love me, but they don't care. They're not going to move me nowhere else. They're going to try to make his life hell till he quits. And then if they move him to Jacksonville, so what? They're going to be over it? They're going to give him his $70 million? Or they might be happy that they only paying him $4 million. Oh, well, you rich. You don't need the money. That's not the point. Y'all robbed him. They robbed him. They colluded to rob him. That is illegal. And this prank, it's not even a prank. This plot was part of the overall plot to humiliate him, which is why it happened at the exact same time. There are no coincidences. If they wanted to throw us off, that young man should have took off that Ole Miss sweater, because I noticed that first. I also realized where Jacksonville went to school. I also knew that Eli Manning did the welcome call for Jacksonville and that Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. I talked about it yesterday. I went and confirmed it. It's not lost on me that Coach Prime did what the Mannings did, especially Eli. This is an in your face, you guys are wrong. Fix it. The jersey sales means fix it. So you can keep making money, something you like. They don't care. Oh, we got enough money. We're not going to give him what he's supposed to have. We're not going to admit we wrong. They just got hit with collusion. But see, there were no damages. Now there's damages to the tune of $70 million. And they got it. One of them get it from the other one. They're billionaires. Mr. Loomis, 69 years of age. 69 years of age. Oh, okay. So, and maybe he don't know that. So maybe he never met Loomis. That's telling me that maybe he never met him. And that would have been the first clue, but he never met him. Me too. It was not right. No, it wasn't right. Mr. Loomis is the Saints GM and he's 69. Albridge makes $1.6 million. He needs to be fired. They protected him. They know what they did. They willing to pay the fine so we can move on. No. Because I know Coach Prime not going to sue because he's going to believe. At some point, they're going to have to realize, we talking about $70 million. If your son would have stepped and fetched it, maybe they would have gave it to him. Honestly, I really don't know. Because I do believe it wasn't about his attitude. And when you say let it go, you think it was just about Shedeur. No, it wasn't. It's about the fact that they think that Black NFL players have lower cognitive function, which means they believe that about all Black people. This is about Black people. This is not about Shedeur. Jalen Milroe was snubbed. If the Giants didn't like Shedeur, why they didn't get Jalen Milroe? Because he didn't go to Ole Miss and he not part of that good old Ole Miss network. He not part of that good old boy network. And he would have also been number 17. The goal was to stop the majority of QBs. The plot was hatched so we could look away from the truth. But they got exposed and we not letting it go. No. They got $70 million. Just write him a check, apologize, and move on. But they're not going to do it. They're not going to give him the satisfaction because they think he thinks too highly of themselves. The opposite of high is low. So that's telling you what they want Shedeur to think about himself. When in reality, it has nothing to do with that. You a damn good QB, but you black. And I can't say out loud that I don't want no more black starting quarterbacks because y'all taking over. Y'all not even the majority of the quarterbacks, and you've risen to the top of the ranks. Well, that ought to let you know you can't stop it. And you are not the people in control. But they still gonna do it. And when the black QBs, if they still decide to keep coming here, and they play in the league and they become the majority, then they're gonna switch the most important part on the team, and the highest paid players are gonna be the tight ends. I'm already seeing it happen. Tell me I'm wrong. Who is the guy that called? Right. That nobody talks about the Ole Miss sweatshirt wearer and the connection to Jackson Dart and Eli Manning in the Ole Miss. Yeah, nobody talks about that. That's just one goddamn hell of a coincidence. It's all too coincidental, and there are no coincidences. It's not even a coincidence they got exposed. It's because they wrong. And Shedeur is apparently God's favorite. And Shedeur knows that. So maybe I told myself, maybe that's why he's still doing this. Because he know God I don't know if he's going to fix it. But Jacksonville is in the conversation. And I don't know how that happens. And are they going to give him his money? Because who let $70 million go? You know what they had me thinking about? How they use eminent domain to flood black cities. How they use eminent domain to put railroads. Right now, there's a black family. They're trying to take their farm and put a goddamn railroad through it. And they have 60 acres of land that they've had for 4 generations. And they're trying to run a railroad through it. All they did was steal generational wealth from Shedeur Sanders because they don't want the majority of the QBs that start to be black. There's no other reason, because the Giants wasn't going to never pick him, and they never had to defame him. They could have got Milroe. They could have got Dart. Shedeur didn't care if he went 6, 7, 8, or 9, but they sought out to humiliate him because they don't like that he's confident. This is not what you do because a black man is confident, but we've seen worse. We've seen worse. And the worst thing they did was not draft him at 144. They said how Dak was a QB that was drafted between the 4th and 7th round, but I don't know Dak's college days. I don't even know if he's comparable to Shedeur. Shedeur is a better quarterback than Tom Brady was in college. That's why Tom Brady going late is not a good explanation. This young man is reading from that piece of paper. I want you to watch him when he gets up. He takes it back with him. There's something on that paper. If you already had his number and the phone was ringing, you didn't need to keep looking at the paper. But that's what was Shedeur Sanders, Mickey Loomis. That's what was written on the paper. Look at when he looks at the paper to remember the names of the people that he's supposed to be. Why the hell would you write that down? And then he gets up, and where does he go with it? He takes it with him because he needs it. And the guys say he fell for it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it worked. This needs to be investigated by somebody. I don't know who, because I understand who they bow down to, the one that called them stupid. So that ain't going to work. Getting a congressional hearing would just let the public hear the truth about the anonymity and the plot. And maybe that's enough, but somebody need to pony up $70 million. That's more than some small countries make. Yeah, that's foul. That it came from, and you, the what? That it said, y'all, thank y'all for the comments. They coming fast and furious. Let's see. It says, yes, that's foul that it came from Atlanta when Dion did so much for the city. They don't care. That's what it proves. In the face of whiteness, they don't care. They desperate to preserve the numbers. Cam Ward is 1 on the depth chart. When I saw that, I said, let me see how many games he started. Like somebody in the comments said from the What She Said podcast family, as long as Will Levis still on the team, he in trouble. Fans giving him hell. They don't really even talk about Cam. Shedeur getting all of the attention. I heard one reporter in some random city say the most popular player The most popular NFL draft prospect got snubbed to the 144th selection, Shedeur Sanders. He was the most sought after QB. And they didn't like that because they knew he would be number 17. They knew Cam was going to be 16 after Tennessee decided. And Tennessee probably was forced into taking Cam. They wanted to trade that pick. I looked at how Tennessee had games with a sprinkle of people there at some point. They haven't always had packed out games. If anybody should have wanted Shedeur, it was them. They didn't even want Travis. They didn't even want Abdul Carter. And they hemmed and hawed and wanted to interview Shedeur again. I felt like Shedeur was looking out for Cam, but now y'all interested in Cam. See, when you say somebody's entitled, they think that they better than other people. Boomer Esiason spilled the beans. Oh, he thinks highly of himself. Well, that's what he's supposed to do. And that's what you want your QB to do. In fact, the Cleveland Browns players, most of them, they said today, Shedeur, the locker room loves him already. Players were on the Dog Pound podcast, like a call with everybody. They say, I want my QB to have that kind of swagger. Ben Roethlisberger had it. Aaron Rodgers have it. Every QB has it. You're the leader of the team. You can't be walking in there with a lowly head down, shifting your eyes and looking away. But that's what they want. You know why? Because they don't want him to be QB1. They don't want him to be the one that tips it to the majority. They don't want him. That's why they were going to let him go undrafted. They know what they was going to lose out on. But see, now the fans are invested and they don't have a problem. Lawsuit or not, the fans are invested. And maybe that's where it needs to come from. People are now asking, are they going to start Shedeur? People like, no, they're not. They probably just going to give him a few reps and that's it. Bring him out for views just like they did in the draft. It was a modern day lynching about money. Yeah. Boomer, Big Mouth told Lord, he did. And he told everything. Who is that? Roger, who is that? Mr. Rich, dude, he told everything with his chest stuck out. I was like, you do know what you just did, right? See, that's what I mean. They got exposed in ways that you never would have thought of. That's God. This is not over. But that $70 million got to come from somewhere. Some people were mad because he got a gift of $1 million. Well, I don't know where he got it from, but somebody gifted him $1 million. They jealous. Talking about they don't want the expensive cars and the gold chains. They don't want to see the success on this kid. They know he's going to be more successful. It eats him alive because it's in direct it's a contradiction to the myth about the low cognitive thinking. If black NFL players have low cognitive thinking, how have they risen to the majority of black starting quarterbacks with Shedeur? Without they at half. So Shedeur was eating at them because they've been lying. That comes out of slavery. It's documented. You could Google it. That this is just more from slavery. And they want to keep up slavery. And they want to keep up Jim Crow because it makes them feel good and it makes them feel controlled. And they think they're having a slave auction. So they overpay the white ones maybe because they don't want their feelings to be hurt. A prank is sending a pizza. Sending an Uber. You don't prank about a job. It was unacceptable. Right. And they were like, well, he failed his job interviews. They have backed away from that because it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. I went back and read that nitwits, the village idiot, the statement that he made that's anonymous. He should be hauled into court. He should be hauled into court behind this because it was absolute travesty of what this fool wrote down. This was the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. I was like, are you serious right now? So he didn't get drafted because the New York Giants ran around defaming him. Listen to this right here. So yesterday we talked about the top, right? We said, hold on one second, let me switch. Yesterday we talked about one longtime NFL assistant coach said his time with Sanders was the worst formal interview I've ever seen in my life. He's so entitled. That's the word they're using to go forward, because the entourage thing shows that they were being deceitful. It says he takes unnecessary sex. He never plays on time. Never, ever. Yeah, right. That can be proven because that's a lie. This first paragraph was all negative. It was just all negative. If you ain't got nothing good to say about a person, you lying on them. Everybody is not all bad. They wanted to paint him in a bad light so they could justify the stupidity that Trump called them out on. Then it says, it's going to be, now listen to this, y'all. This was crazy. It's going to be a culture shock when he really learns how a locker room really operates and how it really works inside a building. What? So Shedeur, who grew up around the NFL, is going to go into a culture shock when he actually sets foot in an NFL locker room and realizes how it works in a building. This is why they pushed him down to 4. This is what they want us to believe. Because no, you deserve all y'all to lose your money because you didn't listen to this. But this is what they were spreading about Shedeur. This is what they're saying is the reason they pushed him down to 144. This is also what they want us to believe and are now backing away from after Boomer Esiason came out and told us the truth. So see, they lying. They are caught and they busted and now they caught in a lie. So they backing away from the lie. Now it says, let's see. It's hard. Oh, it said he's had so much input on the offense, the offensive game plan, and also the coach. Now, I put that in green for a reason. Now, listen to this. He's had so much input on the offensive game and the coach. Is he friends with the first OC that left? Because that's what it's giving. That basically, he's saying that Shedeur has input and he don't like that. First of all, you an assistant. You don't even make no decisions. So nobody give a damn what you like. Let's just get it clear. You are an assistant. You pissed off because he rich. That's what it is. And you knew he was about to get $70 million. And I don't think it's a coincidence they gave it to Travis instead of him. Trying to pull him apart, just like they try to separate him and his dad. It says, the Sanders family is favored by God. They better leave them alone before they catch God's wrath. They already catching it. That's the thing. It's slowly coming out because it's a lot and it's giving us time to digest it. But see, when I heard them say that the overgrown son went into his daddy iPad and wrote the number down, I knew that was a lie. People screenshot everything these days. Somebody wrote down on that paper who he was to call and who he was to pretend to be and what he was to say. And he was wearing an Ole Miss sweater. You not gonna ever convince me or a jury that this was a coincidence. Nope. Because see, the coach from the Giants, the anonymous QB coach that was exposed from the Giants and let this assistant coach right here come from the Giants. And then the Giants drafted a QB from Ole Miss, the same QB that Emmanuel Acho, who's also an insider, was antagonizing Shedeur's brother about. There are emails, there are text messages, there are phone calls. They're paying the fine so it doesn't get looked into. Notice nobody in the media mentioned that kid was reading from a piece of paper, a script, and wearing an Ole Miss sweatshirt, the same school that Jackson Dart and Eli Manning went to, and what that connection is, and why only one team set out to defame Shedeur Sanders. And that is a team that is incompetent, fumbled Saquon Barkley, and have never had a black starting quarterback ever. The New York Giants. You're not going to be able, if they ever make it for the law, they're going to owe him $1 billion. So they might as well just give him 70. But something else don't have to come out. But I'm telling you, Ben Crump keep posting about the situation. I'm sure he got a lot of things to focus on, but he seemed to be a little locked in to me. And to be honest with you, it's going to take something huge, like a lawsuit or something. It's going to take something. But I feel like it's going to come in the same manner because I see it as God. Y'all tried to humiliate this kid, and then the plot to humiliate him was exposed. Trump called you out for your stupidity and went back to being who he was the day before, the next day. Boomer Esiason set up and told us what y'all did to confirm that the phone call was a plot. And that old Miss Sweatshirt, that script, and the fact that that came from an executive closer to the owner than a regular coach. This was a setup. This was a plot to embarrass Shedeur Sanders. They were never going to draft him. They was going to make him work for it because they think he think too highly of himself. Why the media not saying, what you want him to think about? Why the media not asking, well, what did you want him to think? He thinks too highly of himself. So how is it you want your black players to come to you? You want them to shift their eyes to the right. When you walk down the hall, they want them to instantly move to the side and let you keep on your course, your path. You want them to, what you want your black players to do? That's what I want to know. Because if Shedeur is uber talented and can make you a gaggle of money just like his daddy, but he's confident, you want a black QB that can make you a gaggle of money and not be confident, but talented. So I want you to be talented and make me some money. So I want you want him to shut up and dribble. You want him not to have no personality. You want him to be a damn rock. That's what you want. But you don't demand that of your white QBs. You don't care if they're not talented, Trevor Lawrence. You don't care if they don't even win, Daniel Jones. You just keep paying them and paying them and paying them, all the while putting the talented black QBs down to the 5th round or on the clock for 2 years, or moving them around from here to here to here, or leaking their test results, or trying to switch them to wide receiver, or exposing them for the same shit that you did, Masseuse, Justin Tucker, or for Michael Vick. We still don't know how that came out. But you damn sure took his first round money, and he was the first black quarterback to be drafted in the first round. And somebody said that incident happened several years afterwards. So after he got drafted, so why you took his money? You took his first round money because you didn't want him to be who he was. But see, he was wrong. So then we move on to Deshaun Watson. But he wrong too. And now it's exposed. He wasn't the only one, but I said that. I said, and on the ground in Houston, he wasn't the only one. He just didn't snitch on nobody. So then we move on to Lamar Jackson. And he gets snubbed in the draft. He gets snubbed in free agency. He gets snubbed with MVP. And now it's, and in between there's a whole lot of other stuff too. But then the opportunity is back. And it's Shedeur Sanders. And this is the worst, most egregious case. And now the media, social media, is on it and calling bullshit. Even Stephen A. said it was bullshit. Even Stephen A. said they try to intentionally hurt him. And y'all know Stephen A. is an insider. They tried to explain away and say, well, maybe if they'd have had an agent, his number wouldn't have been on the distribution list. No executive is on a distribution list with everybody unless they're talking about the cafeteria. And Shedeur Sanders' name is damn sure not in an email with his phone number on an email on a distribution list to the whole organization about the cafeteria being closed. Somebody lying. This is not enough. Damn the fine, and you need to fire him because he didn't have a password, or he gave his son and his friend from Ole Miss the password, or he gave them the information from the iPad. He was the one that wrote down Shedeur Sanders, and he was the one that wrote down Mickey Loomis' name. Because them young kids would have screenshot it, because that's what they do. Old people write shit down. My mama writes shit down every day. I don't write nothing down. And they younger than me. They're lying. They are absolutely lying. It needs to be looked into. It needs to be investigated. It cannot stop. Right here, the NFL is not above reproach. Because if this goes on and it's not getting swept under the rug, it's going to happen to somebody else next year, because guess what? Somebody is going to tip the tide and become the majority, the black starting quarterbacks like Shedeur was supposed to do. It said Eli only plays daddy ball, and Archie Manning makes sure of that. Right. When I saw Eli Manning, it said, oh, Jacksonville gets a welcome call from Eli Manning. I said, oh, they both went to Ole Miss, just like the dude with the sweater on. Nobody in the media talked about that young man being the one to make the call. They just talked about the son who didn't go to Ole Miss getting the information. So who wrote it down? So a 21-year-old wrote down some information. He didn't screenshot it. He didn't screenshot it and send old buddy a text and say, call this dude right here and pretend to be this 69-year-old man right here. Shedeur was outside. Maybe he couldn't really hear, because you could hear some background noise. Maybe he don't know who Mickey Loomis is. This ain't on Shedeur. The burden of proof ain't on Shedeur. It's on the entire NFL, the Falcons, Ulbrich, his kid, and that boy from Ole Miss. That overgrown child from Ole Miss. And let me find out he related to somebody. Because when you make $1.3 million and your kids got access to your money, they friends got money too. I want this looked into. It's going to be looked into. I need more of the dirt to keep rolling out the closet. I'm wondering if Shedeur going to Jacksonville with Travis is the Band-Aid. Oh, we sorry. Let's put him with his buddy. How much you going to pay him? Because I'm going to need him to get that $70 million. Because you robbed him. And if he took you to court, I swear he could get $1 billion. Because 7 million people saw this young man be humiliated because you told us what the ratings were. Thank you. That's a lot of humiliation. You made sure of it. I'm telling you. This got to be investigated. I believe it will be investigated. Just like it's not a coincidence that overgrown child had on an Ole Miss sweatshirt. It's not a coincidence that Ben Crump keep posting about it. Dion and Eli. Oh, what? $22 said, Shedeur, the NFL should sue the NFL for $100 million and go to the CFL and play because he will win. Right. See, way to go, 22. I actually believe he should get up and leave and go play for the CFL and get 10% equity. And we all gonna watch that shit. And then turn around and sue them. And you know what? You know how much they ought to sue him for? How much did I say the Falcons made in 2023? $553 million. Or maybe he should sue him for $144 million. Or maybe he should sue him for $104 million times 7, because 7 million people saw this. See, there's pain and suffering, emotional distress, damages, punitive. There's all kind of damages. I told y'all the other day, a law firm with 10 people name on the door, or 2 people, or 1, and I meant Ben Crump, knows that there's a case here. Atlanta is lying. The NFL is lying. It's not a coincidence he went to Ole Miss. It's not a coincidence that nobody in the media is talking about it. They are intentionally not talking about the fact that this young man has on an Ole Miss sweatshirt, and Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss, and Eli Manning went to Ole Miss, and the connection that I just pointed out, they are intentionally not saying, because they know it's a connection. And nobody knows who he is, but somebody gonna find out. Atlanta already hot. They are upset because of how they did Prime and his son, because of what Prime means to this city. to be the GM, owner, and manager. Yes. I said I wanted them to own their own league. Maybe if he get equity in the league, that satisfies that for now. He is on their negotiating list for a reason. I don't know if you just put people on the list and the public find out about it if there's been no conversation. And Coach Prime came back off of a flight from somewhere. And all he kept saying when TMZ was asking him about it was, God is good, God is good. Now, y'all know Coach Prime 4 steps ahead of them people. Always has been. And he ain't going to tell us either. And I know he not happy. I know he not happy. So instead of maybe asking, is Shedeur going to Jacksonville? Maybe the question is Shedeur going to Canada? And maybe he should. All he doing right now is making them a gaggle of money with them damn jersey sales. I refuse to buy one. People are like, we got jerseys to buy. I was like, I ain't buying that. Y'all know Shedeur don't get the money. They already owe him 70. And now we making them money. Nope. I know for sure God is going to fix it. Yeah. I think he go, you know what, in situations like this, who said that? In situations like this, a new craft. Okay, welcome. Here's the thing. He not going to only just fix it. It's going to be better than any of us ever imagined. It's going to be something we never even considered. It could be ownership in the CFL. We all could go that way. Other players could go that way. It could be exactly what I said. Start your own league. But instead of reinventing the wheel, it's Canada. Then again, maybe Coach Prime get a team that ain't in Canada and it's a part of the Canadian Football League. It's going to be something that we didn't even consider. It's going to be huge because we're talking $70 million. Giants have drafted 25 players from Ole Miss in their history. It's not a conspiracy. They love now. Sorry. I appreciate you, Greg, but that Ole Miss connection, all you telling me is that they were never going to draft Shedeur. That Jackson Dart was going to always be that guy. And there are people who are on this episode, on this podcast in the chat that heard me say it multiple times. Yes, it is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. I hate to use the word conspiracy. It's collusion because they were never going to draft him. They concocted that cockamamie story that they backing away from to justify they Ole Miss connection, who's not better than Shedeur Sanders. They were never, ever going to draft him. They just made up something. And it shows you that they're not very smart. You didn't even have to do that. Shedeur said he didn't care where he went, but the GM's job is on the line. I already got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. You really think I'm going to get a third black QB? Hell, odds are one of them going to start. No. They were never going to draft Shedeur Sanders and parade him up in Manhattan. It wasn't never going to happen. They made up the story and lied about him, which is why they're trying to move away from it. And when there was one moment, I'm like, did they send Boomer Esiason out here to expose themselves, knowing that nobody going to do nothing about it? Because what he did was baffling. Did it with his chest out. And the only reason, and what happened after he said what he said? Oh, so it wasn't the interviews. So it took the heat off the New York Giants organization. People are putting 2 + 2 + 2 together. The media has not said that that young man was wearing an Ole Miss sweatshirt. And yeah, you just pointed out that they have drafted 25 players from Ole Miss, which means it was going to be Jackson Dart all along. It further confirms what I said. They were never going to pick him. They defamed him so they could justify picking Jackson Dart because nobody would understand it. They didn't want to pick Shedeur at number 2 because they don't want to commit long term. Shedeur's contract will be 4 years in New York. Arch Manning, that the grandson might not be coming out this year, but he damn sure coming out next year, a year afterward. And then Shedeur would be there. They were not going to pick Shedeur. They just needed to justify the selection they were making. But it's evil to do that. It's evil to scapegoat somebody and defame them and destroy their livelihood and take away $70 million because I don't want to draft you and because I never had a black starting quarterback And because, I don't even want no more black starting quarterbacks because they're going to be the majority if he get in because he's good. Right. This was collusion, the worst case I've ever seen. It happened publicly. Most of this kind of collusion cases take place behind the doors with negotiations. They colluded against this young man and humiliated him, defamed him, slandered him, and robbed him of $70 million. If he sued, it might need to be for 70 times too. And since he was a 144 pick, let's just go with that. Plus, we want punitive damages and every other kind of damages out there. And Ubrich need to be fired because he shared inside information. If he had a password, gave it up, or didn't have a password, he should be fired. They are protecting him because that is what they do. They're going to cast off Shedeur to protect Ubrich because he's white. Black QBs are taking over the league. Absolutely. They knew that it was going to happen this year. They knew this was the year. Shedeur was the tipping point. It's not a coincidence. It was Shedeur. I told y'all Shedeur was the collateral damage. If the cockamamie story by the Giants, if the fabricated story by the Giants could have worked with Jalen Milroe, it would have been him. But his daddy ain't in the league. They have sat down and talked about this. I actually have a post. Let me see if I can find it. How one agent tried to explain. He referred to the ownership group as incestuous. Not in a way like y'all thinking, but incestuous nonetheless. Let me see if I can find it. I might not be able to find it. Let's see. This might be it. This might not be it. Oh, no, that ain't it. As you can see, I was doing some research. We'll just share it tomorrow. We'll share it tomorrow. But we'll just share it tomorrow. But he said, this is what he said. I'm going to paraphrase. He said they are billionaires. They talk frequently. They buy their yachts from the same place. They go to the same country club. He said they are incestuous as a group. They talk all the time and mostly about business. So they've been talking about this. And when you look at the numbers year over year, the number of black quarterbacks that start been growing and growing and growing. And they're not even the majority of quarterbacks in the league. So the least amount by racial demographic are black QBs. And now they occupy. But with Shedeur, they would have been the majority. This is what it was about. New York just didn't want Shedeur. They didn't give a damn if he went to Pittsburgh. They didn't. They just didn't want him. So there's multiple things going on here, which makes this complicated or complex. But it's really simple. If I could see it and put out something 2 weeks ago asking, were they trying to, that they have a prop blew in to embarrass him? I'm not the only one that knows this. And I have sat up here and realized that the Giants, I knew the Giants weren't going to never pick him. I've been saying it. I done figured out that Cleveland not keeping him. The more that Pac-Man Jones says it and his host confirms it, that Shedeur is going to Jacksonville, it makes sense because Shedeur not even on the depth chart. These people call themselves playing in his face. But see, here's the problem. They got exposed. So they got to switch it up. And that is why they're moving away from the interviews was trash. You know why? Because I'm going to need evidence of those interviews. And if you don't have it, you're lying. Boomer Esiason must have lost his mind because why? Boomer Esiason lost his mind and told us what they was actually doing. And he said, and I agree with them. I'm like, how old are you? It might be time for Shady Pines for you because you out here telling the truth. When y'all don't do nothing but lie and collude. Collusion is the damn crime of choice in the NFL. It just is. This Jackson Dart here with his hat on backwards at the combine. Y'all know they didn't say nothing about Jackson Dart with his hat on. But they had everything to say about Shedeur. That's where the plot started. He cocky. So you're going to act like we don't see Jacksonville with his head on backwards. At one point, I asked the question, is Jacksonville standing in solidarity with Shedeur? But then again, he could have been trolling him. Then again, it could be a coincidence, even though coincidences don't exist. But the point is, he could have just had his head on backwards because it was an athletic environment, and that's okay. I saw somebody being interviewed on Pac-Man Jones' show, last name Shapiro, who sat up there with his hat on backwards. It's a common thing in a casual setting. If we're not in a corporate setting, and then we're talking athletics, it's common. It happens. If you don't have locks that are too big for the hat, it happens. They concocted that story at the combine. Let them tell it. They didn't want to draft him at the combine. But then they exposed themselves because people start asking, so why didn't you disinvite him? Why did you go to Colorado for pro day? Why did you keep asking him for interviews, especially the New York Giants? At the last minute, when everybody wrapped up their interviews, even the Raiders had a late interview with Shedeur, but he was happy about it because he thought they were going to draft him. They played in this young man's face. They snatched and stole his livelihood like they have done so many black people from Tulsa to Oscarville to whatever it is sitting under Central Park in New York. And y'all thought he was going to the Giants. Hell no. I told y'all they playing in Russell Wilson face. I said, watch who they draft. It's going to be Jackson Dart. I knew they was trying to justify Jackson Dart. And I'm not the only one. But they going to band together like a band of thieves in the NFL. But the truth going to come out. I just need Shedeur to be okay. And I think he is. But you see they backing away from all the interviews. It's the worst. This ridiculous statement. I can't believe. And I think I saw that man on a video. I said, I think this the one that said what I shared yesterday. I didn't listen to that because he lying. They are lying. They lying. They made up this story. New York made up their story because they didn't want it. They didn't. And clearly nobody else was going to draft him. Maybe not the Saints, and that should be investigated. And whoever owns the Saints should be forced to sell the team, just like Donald Sterling in the NBA, because they being racist. So they could pick who to sell their team because they all band together and colluded and was being racist. And everybody sees it now. The only people that refuse to talk about it are these talking heads, and they showing us, especially the black ones, oh, we can't be bothered with y'all. Because y'all doing like they did when the British wanted to colonize the continent of Africa. You didn't want them to take you. You wanted to be comfortable, so you showed him the people they could take. That's what they doing. Because they want to be comfortable, because they want to go to the Super Bowl. Damn the Super Bowl. I hope Shedeur go to the Canadian Football League and don't nobody watch that crap. Milroe gonna be all right. If he's allowed to develop. He got Jalen Hurts type potential. Yeah, and they compared him to Lamar Jackson. I was like, well, that just means they ain't gonna draft him. Talking about Lamar Jackson suffers from the dual threat quarterback curse, just like Deshaun Watson did when Deshaun first got in the league. They do not like these dual threat quarterbacks. But guess what? Shedeur Sanders is not really a true dual threat quarterback, and they ain't like him either. So it's not dual threat quarterbacks they don't like. Y'all know what it is they don't like. Black quarterbacks being the majority because they had this practice of race norming that says black NFL players and black people have lower cognitive functioning. They don't respect their black players. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what these players ought to do? On the first game, on the NFL Sunday, when it's time for the refs to run out and flip the coin, stand on the sidelines. You ain't got to kneel. Just stand there. Act like you don't know the game started. And do it at every game. What they going to do? Get rid of all y'all at once? They need y'all. If you do any research, they need your muscle mass to make their money because that's documented. If they thought they could do it without you, they would have done it already. Y'all have to take a stand. People like, well, nobody should risk the money they got for Shedeur. Okay, all right. You better make a sacrifice before you become the sacrifice. Because if they figure out a race of people to replace you, that's what they're going to do. Or if it's flag football, that's what they're going to. If they thought they could make the same amount of money with flag football, they don't need your muscle mass. They will replace you. Y'all better start banding together. They already out here in certain cities putting signs that say whites only, black only, and most black people don't care because we ain't asked for integration anyway. We just wanted equality, and we still do, and respect. And if I thought that they would let us leave us to ourselves and not try to bomb us, then, you know, it would work. But you can't trust that. Look at Tulsa. We were successful into ourselves, and they bombed the whole damn thing. If they don't bomb it, they run a railroad through it, a freeway through it, flood it, or just burn it down. Or underdevelop it. It's going to always be something. It's jealousy. Yes, it's jealousy. Yes, it is jealousy. They are so afraid of Shedeur Sanders because he is elite. He does not have low cognitive functioning. That proves that they lying, and they've been lying, and they lying to themselves. I don't even know if they believe that crap. But that's how they want to live. They want to live in a place where blacks have less superior brains. Can you believe somebody's running around saying that in this day and age and still fighting it in 2024? That's insane. That's insane. And they talked about, one of the articles said it's a little known practice until two black retired players got together and sued the NFL. So they didn't know they was doing it either, huh? It's a little known practice to the public, but they knew what they was doing because they had policies. These were policies, y'all. These were policies that they had. Policies. You actually mean to tell me that you had a policy that said that black people's brains were less cognitive functioning, so a concussion didn't matter? The NFL ended recently, 2021, and fighting it in 2024, a policy that assumed black players had a lower cognitive function, which denied them money for head injuries. Your brain already don't work to full capacity, so ain't no point in me paying you. Can y'all believe this? Have y'all heard anybody talk about this? No. They should still be talking about this. This is about an entire race of people. This is not about football players. This is about black people. That's why Mike Tomlin might be the only black head coach. I don't even know how many they have, but that's why they're telling him what to do. See, they let him make decisions, and he got Russ and Justin Fields. So now they're making the decisions for him. I don't think they blame that on their lower cognitive functioning. They just don't want him getting a player like Shedeur and letting him start. They can't trust him to put Shedeur at QB2. So he don't have no decision-making ability. He has perceived power. So he went along with the foolishness, and he's going to be out of a job because the media forced Aaron Rodgers there. And it's not a coincidence Aaron Rodgers waited until after they did not draft Shedeur to say, yeah, I'm coming. And now they got Will Howard. So he went from two black quarterbacks to two white ones. Andrew Berry on the clock too. They don't respect neither one of them. They just want their black face so they can have one. It is documented that when it gets to the offensive coordinator positions, they mostly white. When it gets to, y'all know the defensive coordinator is also an executive. Every now and then you get a black one. That's what Aaron Glenn was, who's now the head coach in the Giants, and they talking about he on the clock. I'm like, he just got there. See, we got to hurry up and get it right. They get forever to drag it out. They get protection. They get privileges. Black people get punished and demeaned in rules and regulations. They get to enjoy their life and their NFL paycheck. Over here, you got to shut up and dribble if you black. Oh, I don't want to see the flashy cars. You mean to tell me they don't? I bet if I look, I go press the practice facility for the Falcons. It's some fancy cars out there. They don't want the NFL level gold chains. The NFL did not invent gold chains. And the level determines the person. Everybody is not into gold chains. So they was talking about Shedeur. It sickens them that he is wealthy. It sickens him that he is elite. It sickens them that he is confident. He even said at the combine, I know how people feel because I'm confident. He thinks too highly of himself. They ought to be sued for $100 billion just off that comment because you pushed him down in the draft because he's confident or he thinks highly of himself. When you say something is high, the opposite is low, is at the bottom. That's Jim Crow. That is Jim Crow. And that's what they want. They want to run the NFL like it's Jim Crow. An afterlife of slavery. The NFL's race norming, saying that they're, and it's not just players. They feel like this about the coaches. That's why they don't have any at the executive level, but one or two here or there. That's why they was breathing down Andrew Berry's neck. They don't trust him to make no decisions. He just looked the part. Well, they might as well just hire somebody white because he didn't do what needed to be done. Just make them all white. Because having one doesn't make anybody think you're not racist. In fact, it confirms that you are. And they probably don't have no black women around there. I didn't see one. I was looking. He will be all right. I hope he gets a chance. I hope he gets, you know what? I don't know what I hope. I think I might hope he go to Canada. Because Jacksonville could have, you know what? One of them could have said, you know what? I'm not doing this. But they're not going to do it. That's what the comment was. We'll take a look at it tomorrow. That's what the comment was saying. They stick together. They've been doing this since 1934. It's documented. The question is of dividing and conquer, right? They tried to turn Shedeur against his own father. Hey, y'all. How you doing? How you doing, World's Best Chat? What's up, James? What's up, James? What's up, James? Yeah, they tripping, bro. That wasn't a secret. Shedeur had free reign over the O-line. What? Oh, you mean... Because they said, I think that came off the heels of year one. You don't think it's people out there from year one who either got booted out of CU or who got demoted from CU, moved on to other schools that had something to say to people that they know in the NFL? That's what that comment sound like. And he's just not that good. This man has transformed 3 programs. High school and 2 in college. And he's just not that good. And you only have him falling to number 21 in the first round until he didn't show up at the draft. Maybe because he thinks too highly of himself. You wanted him to show up and let you embarrass him. That's what you want to do. You wanted him to be embarrassed in person because you knew you was going to do it. See, you didn't decide to do this prank because he didn't come to Green Bay. You wanted him to come to Green Bay so you could keep putting the mic in his face and let him get the call while he's sitting there. That's what you wanted to do. The Saints gonna find themselves with some new ownership. I'm telling y'all, Trump coming in, that was about his friend who wants to buy the Saints, Tilmer Fertitta. He called them stupid, which means they are running the organization poorly. That is enough to try to force somebody out. They probably losing money. They have had numerous turnovers at the executive levels, and they didn't plan for the future. So that's enough to start the conversation. That is enough. Yes, please hit the like button. There are over 200 of us in here. All right. I told y'all I planned the shows till the end of the week because, you know, I wanted to give this proper coverage. And, you know, it's just a lot here. It's a lot. And this is not just about Shedeur. This is about Black people and how they really feel about Black people. It's not just about Shedeur. That's why when Coach Prime said, let it go, you know, I was like, you can let it go. I understand y'all want to do what you got to do. But this is about Black people. If you say let it go, you think it's about one person. And everything is being disproven day by day. First, it was the interviews. Oh, we didn't draft him because he flunked his interviews. But then Boomer Esiason tells the truth. Now it's, oh shit, the owners did it. Then it's the prank. And you know, every day something comes out where they backing away from the interviews. They trying to smooth over the prank with a fine without talking about that guy sitting with that Ole Miss shirt on. Like I don't see it. Like we don't make the connection that Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss, that Eli Manning went to Ole Miss. The Mannings didn't say nothing when Coach Prime was doing what they do. I don't think Coach Prime believed those people didn't like him. I think they stabbed him right in the back. I really do. Shedeur too, he grew up around them. And for that 1 minute to say that Shedeur will be in a culture shock when he learns how an NFL locker room works. I'm like, he grew up around the league. And people actually pointed out that that's one of the things that makes him the most NFL ready QB. He's not afraid of the bright lights. He's used to it. Then somebody said, oh, check this out. Remember the person who is not a human, in my opinion, who wrote the comment about Shedeur? He really was putting it out there, what they really was concerned about. Not concerned about, why they were jealous. Listen, look at this right here. Okay. He said, oh, shoot. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Right here, down paragraph, the second paragraph, it said, when you walk in one of these NFL buildings, no one's going to give a shit about that. What? No one's going to shit about that. Now you came. Oh, okay. All right. It says, when you walk in one of these NFL buildings, no one's going to give a about that. No one cares who your dad is. What? They put that on the record? No one cares who your dad is. You would think Shedeur was running around. And we know Shedeur is independent. But they giving us the impression that he's going and saying, well, my daddy said this. No, they calling him a daddy's boy. They saying he's not talented. He's only getting drafted as high as he is because he's Coach Prime's son. Ignore all the accolades and the fact that this man was a top 5 Heisman. Everything he's done, they want to diminish and call and say he's only where he is because of who his daddy is. If that's the case, Shiloh would have been the number 3 draft pick. Am I right? See, they act like Coach Prime didn't have 2 sons. That's how jealous they are of Shedeur. When they the ones working there because of who their daddy is. But see, they don't want him to get on because of his dad. Even though he's not. But that's how they got on. They don't want Shedeur to have the privileges that they have. They know that they have privileges and the black players have rules. They know the practice of black players having lower cognitive functioning in the theory that that's the reality in the NFL. I'm thinking the black players must not know that they say this about them and they treat them like it's true. They know Shedeur will have privileges and they don't want him to have privileges because he's black. If he was white, cool. They would have overpaid him. They probably would have gave him $100 million. But he's black. And he would tip the tide to starting QBs in the majority. So I'm going to take him down and get him for cheap. They didn't want him at all. See, they know once he get in the league, that's how you know this is God. Shedeur is God sent. This exposes the NFL. Colin Kaepernick did it, but then he wanted to come back in and play, so we kept it pushing. He won his lawsuit. Shedeur, this going to drag out. Shedeur didn't sue them. He didn't leave. He hasn't even been there. They try to deny him access. Whites only. Blacks only. Blacks are relegated to rules and regulations. They don't want Shedeur with privileges because of who his daddy is. They feel like they can have privileges because of who their daddy is. Marty Schottenheimer's son, Brian Schottenheimer, went from assistant coach to OC in 2 years, and he is now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. How is that for daddy's son, daddy's boy? They are the ones that benefit from nepotism and don't want Shedeur with it. They tried to say Shedeur was Bronny. Bronny had a cardiac event. They didn't care because they love LeBron. Actually, at first they hated him too. Shedeur Sanders gonna end up being the LeBron James of the NBA. I mean, of the NFL. Everybody loves him. They hated on him first. They tried to tear him down. LeBron rose above all of that. So yeah, I guess Shedeur should leave. But LeBron got his money. Shedeur is only making $5 million and he made $6 million in college. They mad about that. They don't want to see him with the Rolls Royces because they don't have, all of them don't have that. Shedeur is a walking testament to Black excellence. They don't want him to be Black excellence. That's not who they want to employ. There are certain companies that like to hire people that don't have teeth, that don't know how to speak correctly because they paying them cheap. They cheap labor. So they trying to relegate Shedeur to cheap labor by drafting him after they got forced into it. Number 144. They drafted an HBCU player at 141 and Shedeur at 144. Which brings me to what Dr. Omar said. Dr. Omar was upset that Coach Prime left. He say the way he left. Dr. Omar, Coach Prime's contract ended. They waited to the 11th hour like he was not a priority, just like the NFL is trying to do Shedeur, like he's not talented and worth having around. And they offered him $1 million and told him he was going to have to pay his assistants out of that $1 million. And you upset about that? Who else is a coach in any football program associated with the NCAA and has to pay the assistants out of their own check? His contract ended. He didn't want to renew. And because that president was a buffoon, they dismissed him. So let that go, Dr. Umar. But I understand why he wants them to sue, because of accountability. And that's the one thing a lot of these talking heads and nobody wants to do. Hold the NFL accountable. Shedeur Sanders is heaven sent. This ain't nobody but God blowing the roof off of it because he's pulled the curtain back so many times and nobody did anything. Well, now you have to, because the public knows. 7 million people watched this kid be humiliated. And then they added the prank on for extra fun. They knew they was going to do it. You're not going to convince the jury that that Ole Miss person that they refused to talk about wasn't in on it. And in the connection with Jackson Dart and Eli Manning. And Emmanuel Ocho has dragged himself into it because he chose to antagonize Deion Sanders Jr. about Jackson Dart. And people were like, why the hell would you ask him about Jackson Dart being the second QB? Because he knew Jackson Dart was the second QB. Just like they knew they was going to embarrass him and they knew they was going to call while the draft was happening. They just didn't know that we would realize that this is just not a normal prank. They think everybody's stupid. Well, they're wrong. Black women are the most educated demographic in this country, and I am one of them. How you like them apples? Ward is a good boy. It's what? Ward gonna be okay. He gonna need some protection, but he gonna have to. He better wake up. He better wake up down there. He better stop snoozing. It's another way of calling him a slave, right? Talk when I say, pray when. Yeah. Play when I say. See, here's the thing. They know they pay these guys uber millions of dollars. Right? But they make their life hell so they can't enjoy it. And when they retire, they make them take them to court for concussion payments. Or they just got vision benefits. The average NFL career is only 3 years because I think it's either 3 or 4 years. Some people get cut right before they get retirement. Y'all know the TV show Sisters, there's a character, Zach. I forget his real name. They live here in Atlanta. He was in the NFL. He played for the Detroit Lions. He told his story. They cut him right before he was eligible for retirement. That's why 3 years, they running them in, they running them out. That's why I say 26, you on your way out. You better have saved that money. You got to live till you about 70 with $4 million. After tax, before taxes. After taxes, that's like 3.2. And then you want to live fancy, you want to live nice. That's why they laugh when y'all waste y'all money, because they know you're gonna go broke. Or if you got a whole lot of money, who they try to put you with? Becky, Shannon Sharp. Because when you die and leave it to her, it goes right back to them. So they lying. This needs to be investigated. It will be investigated. It's too much. The curtain got pulled back. Yes, Brian went through it, but he got his money. Shedeur going through it, and he didn't get his money. I don't know if the CFL will pay him $70 million. I don't know if that money is technically lost. I don't know if, in some respects, honestly, him staying is futile. He will never make. I said 3 years, right? Okay. If they do him like they did Geno Smith, he gonna make $75 million when he was how old Geno Smith is. And then they gonna say he's too old to pay $100 million. And by then his colleagues gonna be at $150 million. He's gonna always be behind the curve. That's why I'm like, they wasn't gonna draft him. They was not gonna draft him. And maybe that would have been the best, because it would have just further showed how stupid they are. So if he goes to the NFL, the CFL, I don't know what kind of money they make. I don't know. It's like something has to happen, and God gonna have to open up the heavens and part the Red Sea for them to open up that, give him his money, because they got too much pride. They don't respect clearly Black people, because race norming was not even 5 years ago. And even if it was, the league is old. If they banned Black players in 1934, they've been around for a minute. 9 decades ago, they banned Black players from becoming quarterbacks 9 decades ago. So they got a long way to go before they are absolved of race norming. They should have not still had that practice in this day and time. That tells you how they feel about Black people, period. And I know the media knows about this. Everything the NFL does wrong, they try to sweep it under the rug. If it's white players like Justin Tucker, they don't talk about his allegations, but they got on our nerves about Deshaun Watson. Every time you turn around, and if you was in Houston, Lord, it got worse and worse. Because he asked for a trade. You wouldn't have known about it if he didn't ask for a trade. Because none of the 22 that came forward and he had to settle with apparently was willing to tell until a lawyer went and found them and showed them the money. I don't know anything about the Titans because they don't talk. All I know is they giving Cam Ward hell over country music. Unfortunately, he used young man Barkley as a prop. Who? He used that young man Barkley. Who is Barkley? Am I missing? Oh, Saquon Barkley. Oh, yeah. He chose that though. You got to read about his background. He chose that. He drinks beer out the side of the can like they do at white frat houses. So it's okay. That's who he is. And he went to Penn State. The Browns. They know what the Browns didn't want Shedeur. They had to take Shedeur. That's why they treating him. And that's another thing that upsets me about the Browns. Let's say Shedeur failed to them cheap, like Andrew Berry was suggesting. You think they would be happy? They act like, all right, so when you get here, keep your head down. We ain't promising you nothing. They trying to make him feel like he's not all that. But the jersey sales prove otherwise, which makes them look further what? Stupid. It makes them look asinine. They trying to treat the best QB in the damn draft. Let's just call it what it is. The most NFL-ready QB in the draft, like he's nothing. Because that's what they want him to feel about themselves. They like people who come from damaged situations. They like people who don't know who they are. They like the Antonio Browns of the world. That's why they kept giving him a chance. But Shedeur can't get one. Get the hell out of here. Sometimes, I never forget, they said one time, if you go to Texas A&M and you was black, they were like, if you need to get out of having a paper done, just tell them your mom in the hospital because of crack overdose. And they're gonna be like, okay, baby, go ahead. Yeah, I get it. Because then that's what they think. That's what they want. That's what they want for you. If you had to get out of your paper, if your paper was late, just tell them something. Oh, our food stamp cards got cut off and I didn't get to eat last night, Professor. Okay, baby, let me get you. Oh, I just want to make sure you get something to eat. Because that's what they want for you. That's what they think for you. They really believe that none of us don't have any money. And when they give it to you, I'm going to make your life hell because I ain't going to let you enjoy it in my face. Because then that proves the way they moving is a lie. And everything that they have built on is a lie. You're not treating these black people like they have lower cognitive function because you believe that. You just racist. And the guy who's married to the lady, and it's I think they talking about, it said, now I'm doing research on how these owners came into money because they definitely show out here for not picking the young man. Jerry Jones got his money from the oil and gas industry. He bought the team for 130 some odd $1 million, and now it's worth $10 billion. Big Crump needs to step in. Something's going on because he keeps posting about it. I said either he trying to let Prime know I'm right here, I got you, or something going on. Something's going on, and it could be that they're waiting to see how Cleveland treats him because Shedeur's phone call and Dylan Gabriel's phone call is like night and day. They are treating Shedeur like he is a stray dog with fleas, and they won't even let him in the house. But guess what? The locker room loves him. Shedeur, the locker room loves him. The fans love him. The jersey sales confirm he is him. It's the NFL and the Cleveland Browns and these band of thieves. And every day something like this is going to keep happening. So it could be that somebody has been retained. When we get to a certain point and he's not given a fair opportunity and he's not being treated well, and all you got to do is send the thumbs up. I believe that's the situation. I saw what Coach Prime thanked, I guess, the GM of the Tampa Bay Bucks for giving Shedeur a fair chance. That's what it said, and the word fair stuck out to me. I don't know if he sent a text to Cleveland that said, thank you for giving Shedeur a fair chance, but I do know he asked to speak to Barry and say thank you. They were very welcoming to Dylan Gabriel. They were not to Shedeur. They treat him like he ain't, because that's what they want him to feel about himself. I want you to think about everybody in the NFL that has been problematic due to their own doing and how many chances they got. Ray Rice was the only one that they couldn't give a second opportunity for. And look how bad that was. Shedeur hadn't done anything. It's not a dumb idea, Greg, if he can get ownership. It's not a dumb idea. This young man has been robbed of $70 million. And the CFL could use the eyeballs that Shedeur would bring. Look at what he's doing for jersey sales in Cleveland. And they don't even appreciate him. And I'm going to tell you something. God does not leave his people anywhere that they are not respected. If people talking behind his back and they plotting some more, he gonna be out of there. And the fact that it's a whole lot of Jacksonville talk going on, see, all I've heard twice is that is the plan. And Prime somehow is the future. I don't even know if I believe that. But anything's possible because you never know. You never know what somebody at CU said. Some people say Pat Schumer compared him to Daniel Jones. I was like, what? So I don't know. This is a lot going on that we don't know about. But what I do know about is Jacksonville has come up twice. And every time Jacksonville comes up, it's a little bit more information. The question is he going to get his money? Not like Geno Smith did after a tour of failed teams, intentionally sending him, making his life hell. How they going to deal with Prime when they see him again? He going to be at Shedeur's games? What Jerry Jones going to do? What he going to say to him? How Tom Brady going to look Shedeur in the face? He shouldn't. He should look away. They robbed him. They tried to humiliate him. They colluded against him. They slandered him. They did the worst that I have ever seen. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed. And as it relates to a corporation. The NFL is supposed to be a business. I keep hearing people say that. I'm like, no, it is not. It is a plantation masking as a business because it can't get away with being a plantation. But if they could, they would. They have plantation fantasies. They probably looked at the draft like it was a slave auction block. And I think that's how they feel about it, to be honest. The guy in the Ole Miss shirt is the smoking gun. Yes. Thank you. Who's that? Bella V? And nobody will talk about him. We know who the guy. See, everybody thought that was the son. They're like, no, that's not the son. The other guy sitting on the sofa is the son. So why did this guy, where'd he come from? Who is he? What's his name? What's his connection to it? Because he has one. It's not a coincidence that Emmanuel Ocho was trying to antagonize Deion Sanders Jr. about Jackson Dart. And this young man is sitting there in an Ole Miss sweatshirt. Nope. Not a coincidence at all. Yep, you are correct. The NFL is ruthless and he just wants to play. Yep. Trump is trying to manipulate the black community. No, he not. He was serious. See, Trump is about the money. He was serious. He really trying to get his friend's foot in the door. This wasn't about us, believe me. When he said he had phenomenal genes, I felt like we was at a slave auction block. No, he was trying to get his friend foot in the door by calling them incompetent so his friend could find a way to buy that team. This wasn't about us. And he can't even run no more, so there's nothing we could do for him anyway. Singers go to the UK, so why not Shedeur? Is that what they say? I mean, yeah, he could. Pilgrims and Indians. Cam is 3 picks from being scammed here in Tennessee. I remember how they treated McNair at first. Well, it sound like they it sound like they on the way. It sound like they. All right, y'all, we getting ready to wrap this up. I'm gonna just keep reading comments. Prime wasn't 4 steps ahead this time. No, I do think he was blindsided. You are correct. But don't forget. I don't know, Greg, if this your first time hanging out with us. I talked about how they did the legend Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice's son, Jerry Rice was told his son was going in about the 3rd round. You don't think Prime heard something? This was about a week or 2 before the draft. His son went dead last. And they used his story for ratings. And Jerry Rice was hot. His son talks about it. It's on YouTube. So that if they did it to Jerry Rice, then they did it to Coach Prime, but they won't do it to Archie Manning. What does that say? It says this is why they still had the practice of race norming. All black people can do for them is make them money. They don't respect them. You just labor. And when you get to the QB spot, I'm going to make it real hard for you because I don't want you with that spot. And when we take over that spot, they're going to shift the most important position to tight end. If we're not in the majority, whatever we're not in the majority, and I think it's tight end, then that's what they're going to shift to. That's why by then, somebody got to have a league in place that respects black players. And it needs to be a league owned. I said Coach Prime. I mean, look what they're doing to his son. I mean, if anything, he should have woke up and that's the first thing he should have thought. I hope he don't think he gonna win these people over because it ain't happening. I mean, I can't say never, but I don't see it. I don't even know if you want that. I don't even know if God wants that, to be honest. It could be that God wants Coach Prime or somebody else to open the door for so many other black men so they can have a respectful place to be employed and play professional sports. And look at how respectful it is at CU. Coach Prime was actually teaching a course today called, what was it? Something in leadership. Public something in leadership. Imagine going to CU and taking a leadership course, being amongst the top top GPA for the team. The team GPA is already up. Coach Prime is serious about that. He runs the college football team like the pros, but you get to the pros and it's the Mickey Mouse. It's a SpongeBob shop. So God is king because Crump called them out and that was nothing but God. Yep, you're right. That's exactly what that was. That's exactly what that was. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, Well, Coach Prime know who his friends are in the league now. That clearly must have been important for him to know. CFL teams are valued at best at 50 million compared to 5 billion. I mean, honestly, maybe that's what Shedeur going there could do. I'm not saying he's going. I'm saying they added him to the negotiating list for a reason. I'm saying it can't be a ploy because the NFL have shown they don't respect Shedeur's talent because he's a QB. See, I think people felt like because he was a QB, they would treat him differently because he's not the dual threat quarterback. So no need to shun him like Lamar Jackson because he's more like a Joe Burrow. He's cerebral. Well, they must not know that the NFL does not believe that black people have the same cognitive ability as whites. So all of that's out the window. What's happening with Shedeur is exposing not an issue within the NFL, not an issue with Shedeur, but an issue that the NFL has with black people. That's fans, performers, workers, staff, coaches, GMs, janitors. You understand what I'm saying? That's what Shedeur's situation has exposed. Not that the NFL colludes, because that's documented already against Lamar Jackson. Not once, but twice, but 3 times. But because they are racist and they view black people as inferior. And for a league that is majority black, that's major. For a corporation in 2025, that's major. That is major for a corporation. See, a lot of people keep saying the NFL is a business. They're also a corporation that are governed by federal rules and regulations about workplace conduct. And you can't be out here with practices where you believe and you pay your people and you institute rules and regulations to lower the respect for black people because you think they brain slower. Are you crazy? You can't do that. You think Wells Fargo could get away with that? Well, they might not be a good example. You think Costco, you think Target can't even get away with that? Nobody can have that documented as a policy. That's why in the article it said it was a little known policy. That is a lie. When they report on the NFL, I figure they just must want to be comfortable at the Super Bowl. That comes out of slavery. That means that's who they are. Jim Crow is the director of HR for the NFL. If Shedeur goes to Canada, you will see Trump. Yeah, I thought about that too. Jared. I said that too. Mediocrity is usually not smart. It's not. And that's the thing. Like, the lie that they're selling is to make themselves feel better, because they know when it comes to the game of football, who's better? You have the majority of your QBs are white, but the people you've been stopping from the QB position over and over and over for various ways of switching them off, banning them, humiliating them, pushing them down in lower rounds of the draft, and they are the majority, or would have been with Shedeur, the majority of the starting QBs. Now it's half and half. Shedeur was collateral damage. Cam Ward was to block Shedeur, and Jalen Milroe, the plot just didn't work for him. Let me tell you something. I know Shedeur Sanders would have been better than Bobby from the Saints back in the day. Oh, A-Bear. Yeah. Mr. Ray, yes, sir. Yes, sir. People are now saying hashtag forever ain'ts. The Saints are forever the ain'ts. They will never make a good decision. That's why Trump, in my opinion, was campaigning for his buddy, Tilmer Fertitta, to buy the team. I'm telling you, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. He wanted to buy it, but it's not for sale. But since they're incompetent, it might be. It just might suddenly become available. They have pre-orders up for his jersey. It's crazy. Yeah. And he got the number one. He's number one in jersey sales. Number one. That's showing you. That's God. That's God. They acting like Shedeur is not him. God said, yes, he is. You can't fight with that. What did Kendrick Lamar say? You can't fake influence. And he has it. He already got the locker room. He already had the guys on the calls talking about him. He basically was saying, so he got the locker room. He got the city. Well, probably half the city. He got the locker room. He was at high school. He already had the players on a call. Now he got number one. It went from number 3 to number 1 in jersey sales overnight. That was 24 hours ago, because we talked about it yesterday. 24 hours. He went from 3 to 1. And I knew it would. I knew he would. It proves that he should have been the first pick of the draft. That's what it proves. He should have been the first pick of the draft. I told y'all, they kept saying he should go to New York because New York is like this big market in the star power. I said, Shedeur got his own star power, and he gonna bring it wherever he goes. If you ask me, since the guy described the owners as incestuous in terms of, how they maneuver with each other, it's highly possible that Jacksonville could have wanted Shedeur, and because none of them would have benefited like the owner in Jacksonville would have, they were like, let's just all block him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I could see it, because, see, the owners get, say, the $250 million. But then if Shedeur goes to Jacksonville with Travis, do you know how much that owner gonna make? Now, see, I don't know who the owner is, but he better than me. Because I would have told the 31 of them, well, y'all didn't want it. I mean, why? See, it's almost like one owner can't make more money without, it's like they got to all make the same money because somebody going to get their feelings hurt. But to be honest with you, the value of the teams, the Cowboys sits at the top. Skip was like, ain't no way. There is no way Jerry Jones should have not gotten Shedeur for $8 million. Because we know he like a deal. And even he didn't do it. That's how you know they made a deal to collude, to harm him and rob him of $70 million. We're going to see what happens next, though. We're going to see what happens next. They are waiting for Arch Manning in New York, but it was no conspiracy theory. Now, it was a conspiracy. It sure was. No, it's collusion. It's actually collusion. People use the synonyms interchangeably. Baby, they colluded against Shedeur. Shedeur is too talented. Number 1 in jersey sales. You know what he would do for a team that actually wanted him? If he would have went to Jacksonville all 4 years of he and Travis's rookie contracts, that stadium would have been sold out. Now, the city of Jacksonville owns their stadium. So the owner, I don't know how they get money in that situation. But one of these other stadiums out here that these teams are invested in and they make royalties from or whatever, they made an agreement. Y'all know Jerry Jones, know Coach Prime. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't ignore the young man sitting over there with the Ole Miss sweater on. Don't ignore him. We need to know who that is. What about Pittsburgh Steelers, number 17, Joe Gilliam? Yeah. Mike Tomlin played himself. He should have acted like they was going to fire him tomorrow and do like Isaac Newsom and draft Shedeur and leave. And be like, okay, I drafted them, so I'm just going to wait for you to fire me. Because they would have did it. But hey, sometimes that's what has to happen. You have had your time. Don't let them abuse this young man like that. They're going to fire you anyway, so you might as well do it. But they don't have the courage. But that's the kind of people they pick. That's the kind of people they pick. They pick Sambos. That's what they want. Because they know Sambo gonna do what they want. Sambo just looked the part, but he gonna do what the white establishment wants. He just lucky to be in there. They mean it in a different way. That's the time. I say I need to find it. Let me see if I can find it while y'all are clearly having conversations. I'm gonna see if I can find this. It was an agent that made the statement when they were talking about how they collude and them being guilty. Y'all funny as hell. All right, I think I found it. Y'all funny. All right. Okay. So now y'all can see what it says. This statement was about in let's see. So this statement was made by an agent, okay, when they had 31 T's in the league, apparently, or somebody made a typo. It says, let's be clear. These are billionaire owners, an agent said. It says they go to the same places. They go to the same country clubs. They buy their yachts from the same people. They speak to each other on a regular basis about multiple things that are mainly business. They are very, very incestuous by nature because they're the 31. This was had 31 teams. They're the 31 most powerful owners in the world as it relates to pro football in America. So does that make sense? So essentially, what they're saying is They talk all the time. What happened with Shedeur was no accident. What he's saying is, this is an agent. This is when they were talking about collusion in one particular case. So what he's saying is, they know each other. They talk business all the time. They have a tight-knit circle. A tight-knit circle. So they all knew what was going on with Shedeur. All of them knew what was going on with Shedeur. And this statement right here could actually be used in Shedeur's case against the NFL if he ever decides to sue. It could be used in Lamar Jackson's case because he had been colluded against and snubbed 3 times, but he's still in the NFL, So that's what it is. They knew Shedeur was going to be undrafted. They knew what Boomer Esiason said when the owner said, take him off my board. He's entitled. The reason none of them drafted him and passed him up 5 times, which lets you know they were not going to draft him at all. The prank came through, Trump came through, and it blew it out the water. They so tight. They tight-knit. They a band of owners. The gentleman's agreement. They've been doing this. This is how they operate. They all knew what was going to happen with Shedeur. They were all in on it. Cleveland, too. People are saying Cleveland owners probably got forced into it. Read this statement. When Trump came out, they were probably all talking about what he said. But when the prank came out, that was it. Because it exposes them. It exposes them. It pulled back the curtain on what we were seeing with our own eyes, intent to humiliate. That's why Shedeur eventually got drafted. He was going undrafted free agent because they was going to make him work for it because nobody cares who your daddy is. Because they didn't want Shedeur with privileges like they have. They don't view white people and black people the same. That's why the race norming came from slavery all the way till they arguing about it in 2024. But they claim they stopped the policy in 2021, but they still arguing about it in 2024. And why they still practicing race norming and fighting about it? In 2025, Shedeur Sanders would have been the 17th starting quarterback, making black starting quarterbacks the majority. That's why they wanted him relegated to QB2 in Pittsburgh. Nobody wanted him to be a starter anywhere, so we ain't drafting him because he's going to be a starter. You can't take somebody like Shedeur and make him QB2 because he's good as hell, and everybody knew it. And they don't care that the fans wanted to see it. They have to protect what the NFL used to look like when they had a ban against black players being QBs. That meant whites were the majority. They didn't even invite Shiloh to the combine. Shiloh didn't get drafted at all. Shedeur was going to be right there with him. Shedeur was going to be right there. That prank stopped the slide or the push because that's what it was. They was about to sit there and rob him of his childhood dreams because he thinks too highly of themselves and they can't have a black player with lower cognitive functioning thinking he better than whites or equal. I don't think y'all know how bad this is. This is blowing the roof off of the NFL being a plantation with Jim Crow as the HR director and a caste system relegating all of the blacks, regardless of the positions they hold, to inferior, to labor. And they don't like that for the quarterback position. And now they would be the majority if Shedeur was there. So it's going to take a miracle for him to start. Did you see the GM face when Shedeur's name was called? Yeah, because he know he going to get fired. He didn't even have a choice in the matter. That's why he was trying to act like a double stuffed Oreo. Well, when you come in here, make sure you put the head down and get it. I had to look and see who said that. It was him, Andrew Berry. He sold Shedeur up the river. He didn't have to talk to him like that. He didn't talk to Dylan Gabriel like that. God works in mysterious ways. Yep, that's what he said. And why was he so shocked and bewildered when it happened? Because he's full of it. He's full of it. He's doing their bidding with melanin in his skin. That's all he is a double stuffed Oreo. No Colorado players got drafted other than Travis. No, that's not true. Jimmy Horn Jr. got drafted, and LaJohntay got drafted. So the entire wide receiver crew is in the NFL. People were like, how the hell is it that his elite wide receiver crew is in the NFL and he threw the ball to him? It just further confirms collusion, discrimination, and defamation. You should be a guest on, what is that? PMS? What is that? I don't know what that is. NBC? It says, well, thank you for that. I take that as a compliment. Thank you so much. Cleveland is a good fit for Shedeur. He can change the organization. They don't want to change. Okay, y'all not listening. Y'all not listening. Y'all not listening. Y'all are going about this as if there was a misunderstanding. As if the NFL was not just having a policy where blacks' brains are inferior to whites. You think they're going to let him change the organization? They won't even let him in. They won't even let him in because they know he going to have privileges that they don't want because he had privileges at CU. They was mad talking about he didn't even go to class. I'm like, they all was, for the most part, in class online. They thought Shedeur was the only one that had online classes. They trying to find anything so he don't get that top spot and then flip the majority and then get the same privileges that they have, which is their daddy worked there. Marty Schottenheimer's son zoomed up the ladder to head coach. I know it's people in Dallas that was upset with that. That man was an assistant coach, and 2 years later, he was like an OC, and now he the head coach because his daddy is Marty Schottenheimer. They don't want what worked for the Mannings to work for the Sanders because the Sanders are black. No matter how much money Coach Prime made them, they're still black. The race norming. Blacks have lower cognitive functioning. That's how they think. That's how they see you. So I don't want you in my most important position because your brain has lower functioning. They didn't even want to pay black people for concussions. Black people got to fight for everything in the NFL. And if they give you the money, you better wonder what corner they finna come around. You're going to be sacked. You're going to be relegated to the bench. They're going to put an older white QB for too much money in front of you. They're going to overpay some QBs and let them languish and lose and lose and lose. But then when you get the job, you on the clock instantly. Cleveland does not respect Shedeur Sanders. The city seems to like, well, the fans seem to like him. Cleveland treats Shedeur Sanders like he a stray dog with fleas. And we don't want you, but we got to take you in because though nobody else wants you. That's how they treated him. His welcome call wasn't that. It was so condescending. We're going to listen to Dylan Gabriel's call tomorrow. All right, we're going to get out of here because we could be on here all night. I knew we were going to be on here for a while. We're pushing almost to 3 hours. We will be back tomorrow. We will listen to Dylan Gabriel's call and compare it to Shedeur Sanders, just like we did. We examined the prank video. We saw that it was a script the young man was reading from, the Ole Miss sweatshirt. And I don't know. Oh, the fact that the father is an executive and how Shedeur's number came about. The story I heard earlier today isn't sufficient to say that Shedeur's phone number was on a distribution list with everybody in the Atlanta Falcons organization because you don't put contact information for one draft prospect out of 300 on an email about the cafeteria being closed. So an investigation is warranted. It is, I don't even know if it's urgent, but I say yes. An investigation is warranted and it is urgent. It needs to happen. It will happen. It's too much there. Too many questions that need to be answered. There's too much of a connection to just let this go. And we're talking about $70 million. All right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to say good night. I'm going to see y'all back tomorrow. Same time, same place. What She Said Sports. We will be talking about Shedeur Sanders and some other things. If I hear anything new about Jacksonville, I'll let you know. Go check out Pac-Man Jones' podcast. He's actually good. His personality is perfect for it. So y'all let me know your thoughts. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to my day ones, Gracie and Kiel. Shout out to friends of What She Said. Shout out to the new subs. Shout out to the people that hung out with us today. Make sure y'all hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. All right, that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. I give you a few seconds to wrap up y'all conversations. Y'all will have it. As always, good conversations, and I'm going to let Alabama State take us out of here. Sade, is it a crime? Yes, everything that happened to Shedeur is a crime. Collusion, defamation, definitely the two. Collusion, defamation, and something else. I don't know. It's a whole lot happening here. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. You're probably right about that. Coach and GM are scared that fans will start chanting prime. That's what a few people have said. They scared of Shedeur, though. They scared of Shedeur. He got them folks running for the hills. All right, y'all. Good night, good night, good night.